Chapter 1684. And Apmb, the heaven's mandate Hao Tsang sect is unfit to lead the immortal Tao due to its unrighteousness. I, Su Fang, will strip the heaven's mandate Hao Tsang sect of its right to lead the immortal Tao. Su Fang's majestic voice reverberated in the sky above the heaven's mandate Hao Tsang sect. A supreme domineering aura enveloped the world. The sect is looking for Su Fang all over the greater world. How dare he come to the heaven's mandate Hao Tsang sect? How dare he try to strip the heaven's mandate Hao Tsang sect of its right to lead the immortal Tao? Who does he think he is? The heavenly Tao? How arrogant! You're courting death. Suppress him and the sect will reward you handsomely. Some of the heaven's mandate Hao Tsang sect cultivators thought of the generous rewards and their eyes flashed with greed. They rushed into the sky one after another. If this were any other place, they wouldn't be blinded by greed. However, this was the heaven's mandate Hao Tsang sect. No matter how heaven-defying Su Fang's strength was, how much could he stir up? Su Fang looked down at the heaven's mandate Hao Tsang sect cultivators with a cold and ruthless expression. Boom! A mysterious purple aura burst out of Su Fang's body and condensed into a huge purple umbrella above his head. Then, a supreme ruler's aura surged out of Su Fang's body like the might of the heavens and covered the heaven's mandate Hao Tsang sect. Su Fang had saved the immortal Tao Hao Tsang sect and obtained the faith of countless cultivators. Moreover, his purple aura spirit was constantly evolving. The combination of his purple aura spirit and imperial aura allowed his ruler's aura to reach a terrifying level. Su Fang was like a supreme ruler of heaven and earth. He possessed supreme fortune and a sovereign's will that no one could resist. Even the heavens and earth had to submit to him. The heaven's mandate Bright Firmament sect was said to represent the heavens and dictate the fate of all living beings. It controlled the firmament, and its 81 sites were protected by the supreme will of the heavenly Tao. However, at this very moment, under Su Fang's supreme divine might, the will of the heavenly Tao was also replaced by Su Fang's will. Boom! 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 Countless heaven's mandate Hao Tsang sect cultivators charged at Su Fang, but they all trembled under the pressure of Su Fang's sovereign aura. In an instant, these cultivators' hearts were filled with greed and monstrous killing intent, but they were drowned by boundless fear and reverence. Their legs went soft, and they couldn't help but kneel down and submit to Su Fang. Many cultivators on the ground succumbed to Su Fang's invincible might. Countless cultivators even knelt on the ground to worship Su Fang. The creation of fate, the master of heaven's secret. If I am the master, all worlds will submit to me. Su Fang used his primordial spirit to chant the profundities of fate Tao runes and activated the heaven's fate-taking art. So it turned out that Su Fang had his second primordial spirit control Grand Elder Changsun to lure the Grand Elder and Ming Yen out of the heaven's mandate Bright Firmament sect. His goal was to inflict the most fatal revenge on the sect, devouring the heaven's mandate Hao Tsang sect's destiny. Every cultivator had a fortune that ordinary people didn't have. Only then could they cultivate in defiance of the heavens and ascend from a mortal to an immortal. To be able to establish a foothold in the greater world, each faction also had a fortune. Moreover, this fortune was a type of influence. If it was strong, the faction would be powerful. If it was weak, the faction would decline or even perish. The Heaven's Mandate Bright Firmament sect was the #1 faction of the Immortal Tao. No other faction in the Immortal Tao could compare to its fortune. Even the Grand Star Hall was far inferior. However, as Su Fang activated the Purple Cloud Dharma Spirit and the Imperial Qi, as well as the Heavenly Fate Life Shrinking Technique, a mysterious force swallowed up the Heavenly Fate Hao Tsang sect's Imperial Qi in a domineering manner. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Strands of purple mist flew out from the depths of the Heaven's Mandate Saint Land and gathered around Su Fang. Originally, the violet mist was difficult to see with the naked eye, but because there was so much of it, It converged into something like a vast sea, causing the mysterious violet mist to swirl around Su Fang. The violet mist canopy above his head continued to expand, from 100 meters to 50 meters, 60 meters, until it was nearly 300 meters wide. The Heaven's Mandate Bright Firmament sect was under the protection of the Heavenly Tao, so its cultivators were especially sensitive to fortune. At this moment, all cultivators who used the sect as their origin felt a sense of terror, as if they had lost the protection of the Heavenly Tao. They could foresee that from now on, their cultivation would be shackled everywhere. All sorts of calamities and misfortunes would descend upon them. It wasn't just these cultivators. The entire Heaven's Mandate Bright Firmament sect seemed to have been stripped of its supreme halo bestowed by the Heavenly Tao. Their fortune rapidly declined. The sect's cultivators stared at Su Fang in disbelief. In their minds, Su Fang was the embodiment of the Heavenly Tao, a ferocious devil. In the minds of the Heaven's Mandate Bright Firmament sect's cultivators, Su Fang had turned the tide in the Great War and saved the immortal Tao world. No one could match his prestige. However, he refused to be controlled by the Heavenly Mandate Haotsong sect. Under the powerful suppression of the Heavenly Mandate Haotsong sect, no matter how great his reputation was, he would be suppressed sooner or later. But they didn't expect, who would have thought that Su Fang would appear so openly and give the Heavenly Mandate Haotsong sect the most ruthless revenge they'd ever received. The loss of providence was difficult to see with the naked eye, nor could it be captured, but it could be sensed in the unseen world. The Heaven's Mandate Bright Firmament sect had lost several higher-ups and even its first Supreme Elder. Perhaps it was a heavy loss, but it wouldn't shake its foundation. However, the loss of fortune also meant that the sect's foundation was shaken and would continue to slide into the abyss of destruction. Su Fang's terrifying ability to devour fortune shocked the entire Heaven's Mandate Bright Firmament sect. Everyone had the same thought: this person was heaven-defying. No matter if it was an individual, a sect, a cultivation family, or even an entire race, they would all be destroyed in the end. Su Fang used his purple Qi Dharma spirit and imperial Qi to activate the heavenly secret life-taking art. He forcefully and domineeringly devoured the fortune of the Heaven's Mandate Bright Firmament sect. Although he wantonly plundered a large amount of fortune, he also paid a heavy price. His head was covered with a layer of gray and his appearance became that of a man in his 50s. However, he looked down indifferently. His deep eyes were filled with vigilance. The zhenqi and energy in his body were ready to explode at any time. He was not guarding against the experts of the Heavenly Mandate Haotsong sect, but against the deity Sanghan who was hiding in the Heavenly Mandate Haotsong sect. He appeared in public not only to take revenge on the Heaven's Mandate Bright Firmament sect and devour their fortune, but also to lure Sanghan out and kill him in one fell swoop while the first Supreme Elder and Ming Yen were away. However, the result disappointed Su Fang. Sanghan must know that Luo has awakened. Luo can use my body to display the Azura clan's supreme ability and threaten his life. Moreover, he was injured by Master last time, so he must be very cautious and won't be easily fooled. Sanghan is hiding in a secret place in the depths of the celestial land of destiny. There are layers of formations. If I force my way in, even if I can kill him, I won't be able to escape when the first Supreme Elder and Ming Yen return. Looks like I have to give Sanghan some courage. Su Fang's eyes flashed with decisiveness and viciousness. Then, he staggered, looking as if he had exhausted too much of his life force and could no longer fly. In the depths of the celestial land of destiny, Sanghan was recuperating in seclusion in a secret place. He noticed Su Fang as soon as he appeared. Just as Su Fang had guessed, Sanghan didn't intend to make a move because he was afraid of Luo's strength. Seeing Su Fang's aura weaken, Sanghan's eyes flashed with a bloody light. He stood up from the ground, but still didn't make a move. Instead, He spoke to the cultivators of the heavens mandate bright firmament sect in a stern voice. Su Fang is already at the end of his strength. If you don't make a move now to suppress him, when will you? With me supporting you, what do you have to fear? I promise that whoever can suppress him will have a chance to become a god. Even if you can't become a god, you can at least become a demigod like the first Supreme Elder. Godly man. It's the god who appeared during the great war of the immortals and demons. With the support of a deity, what can Su Fang do? No matter how strong he is still like an ant in front of a god. I don't expect to become a god. As long as I can reach the height of the first Supreme Elder, even if there is only a glimmer of hope, it is worth fighting with my life. Su Fang is already at the end of his strength and can be easily suppressed. How can such a great merit fall into the hands of others? Sang Han's words instantly ignited the flames of greed in the hearts of the first Supreme Elder and Supreme Elder of the Heavens Mandate Bright Firmament sect. The fear and despair just now suddenly disappeared. Their eyes flashed with a hale and hearty light, and they rushed to kill Su Fang. Apnbroar Su Fang suddenly looked up to the sky and let out an earth-shattering dragon roar. An astonishing dragon aura soared into the sky and quickly turned into a divine dragon more than 500 feet long. It emitted a terrifying dragon's might and deterred all directions. Boom, 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 boom. The divine dragon transformed by Su Fang swung its huge tail and swam with an earth-shattering momentum. After a roar, it killed more than a dozen experts of the Heavens Mandate Bright Firmament sect and launched an earth-shattering battle. As Su Fang's cultivation realm increased and he continued to devour the essence of wood-attribute spiritual objects, it caused his dragon-subduing true body to transform again and again. When he urged the dragon-subduing true body to transform into a divine dragon, not only did it become bigger, but its physical defense and the power of the Dragon Clan's supernatural powers also reached the height of a peak Tao realm expert. Boom! A Supreme Elder was clawed into pieces by the mysterious yellow tyrant dragon claw on the spot, and the pieces of his body flew all over the sky. Boom! 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 The divine dragon that Su Fang had transformed into collided with a Taishang Elder. Heaven and earth shook, and Su Fang's dragon scales fell off, and dragon blood splattered everywhere. I am the divine dragon. In my name, in my will, I deprive you of your true chi, physical body, and primordial spirit. A voice that seemed to come from ancient times came out of the divine dragon's mouth, as it used the Dragon Clan's supreme supernatural power, the curse of the divine dragon. The Supreme Elder's true chi, blood chi, primordial spirit, and life aura rapidly disappeared under the divine power of the curse of the divine dragon. The other experts of the Heavens Mandate Bright Firmament sect were all shocked. What can the Heavens Mandate Bright Firmament sect do to me? Su Fang withdrew from the dragon-subduing true body state and smiled coldly. A supreme domineering aura that seemed to look down on the world spontaneously arose. =_our download address. Mobile reading, Bibliographic Review. Chapter 1685. The next time I, Su Fang, come back, it will be the time of the destruction of Tianming Haotsong sect. Su Fang swept his gaze over the experts of the Heavens Mandate Haotsong sect and slowly flew towards the barrier above the sect. Whoosh! Su Fang's body suddenly collapsed and turned into a bloody ribbon, cleverly passing through the gap in the enchantment and arriving outside the enchantment. Intimidated by Su Fang's momentum, none of the Tianming Haotsong sect's experts dared to stop him. Puff! Su Fang's body suddenly shook, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. His aura immediately withered to the extreme, and even his life aura became very weak. Sang Han, who was hiding in the secret realm of the Tianming celestial land, saw this scene and immediately showed a look of surprise. However, he still carefully sensed and determined that Su Fang could not be in disguise. He no longer hesitated and directly tore the void, and his figure flashed into the chaotic space and time. When he reappeared, He was already outside the enchantment, and was only 1,000 feet away from Su Fong. "Aunt, we meet again." Sang Han smiled coldly. Su Fong said hatefully, "It's a pity that I couldn't kill you last time. Aunt of the lower realm, you want to kill me? If it weren't for that expert from the God realm, you would have been suppressed by me. How would you have the life to be arrogant in Tianming Haotsong sect? That expert from the God realm who mastered the time reincarnation great Tao has fallen, right? In your current state, even if that felon of my clan stimulates the potential of your body, it will be difficult for him to do anything to me." Sang Han looked at Su Fong indifferently, as if he was looking at a dead man. At this time, Lu Ling's cold voice suddenly sounded, "Lowly slave, you dare to treat this king as a prisoner?" Sang Han disdainfully said, "Although you used to be the king of the Azura clan, you have long been stripped of your identity as a king. Your corporeal body and primordial spirit have been separated and imprisoned in the God realm and the outside world, becoming a prisoner." Jiuzhen Jiuyang 1704 chapter. "In the past, I was indeed a lowly slave in your eyes, but now I am your guard, and you are a prisoner. What qualifications do you have to put on the heirs of an Azura king in front of me?" Sang Han's words shocked Su Fong. He had long guessed that Law must be a big shot of the Shura clan, but he didn't expect his identity to be so shocking. Azura king. Su Fong learned from Shu Yunkong that Azura was an extremely powerful race in the universe. Although they had declined and their clansmen had withered away, there were still many experts in the race. No organization in the universe dared to underestimate the Azura race, because Azura was most proficient in the Tao of slaughter. They were a terrifying race that made people pale at the mere mention of them. It was actually the Azura king. Sang Han said proudly, "Previously, you used the Azura supreme supernatural power and overdraft Su Fong's corporeal body. Now that it's been less than 1,000 years, it's impossible for you to use it again. And it's impossible for your primordial spirit to break through the shackles of the blood-colored cage in a short time. It's better to obediently follow me back to the sealed land, lest you be humiliated by me and completely lose the last of your dignity as the former Azura king." Su Fong suddenly laughed. "I'm afraid that this time, not only will you return empty-handed, but you will also pay with your life." Sang Han seemed to have heard the funniest joke in the world and couldn't help but laugh wildly. Then, his body exploded with a monstrous killing aura, and he turned into an Azura full of blood and killing aura. The evil blood light burned into a raging flame. Chi! Sang Han spat out a dark flame, and with a terrifying momentum that covered the sky, it pressed down on Su Fong. Law transmitted his voice to Su Fong. "Su Fong, I want the heart-blood of this lowly slave." "As you wish." Su Fong responded coldly. Boom! Luo Tsong burst out a divine power from the blood jade, and the blood-colored cage couldn't stop it. It quickly merged with Su Fong's flesh, meridians, and bones. Su Fong's body seemed to be burning, and mysterious totems appeared on his skin, turning him into a volcano, spewing out a monstrous killing aura. "Impossible, how can you overdraft the potential of your body in such a short time? Why hasn't your body collapsed?" Sang Han's expression changed instantly, and he revealed a look of disbelief. Boom! 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 Su Fong urged a majestic killing aura, which converged into a stormy wave, suppressing Sang Han's dark flame and crushing his momentum layer by layer. Boom! Sang Han was like a cannonball, and under Su Fong's astonishing power, he was sent flying with a boom, and fell on the boundary of the Tianming Haotsong sect. The boundary shook violently and almost shattered, and the entire 81 dojos of the Tianming Haotsong sect shook with a loud boom. Su Fong's attack was so terrifying. "You cunning ant, you've recovered long ago, and your previous injuries were all fake." Sang Han gritted his teeth. As expected of a deity from the heavens, Luo Tsong's terrifying attack with the help of Su Fong's perfect realm body didn't kill him, but injured him, and the injury wasn't very serious. It wasn't that Luo wasn't strong enough, but that Su Fang's perfect realm body could only allow Luo Tsong to unleash such an attack. Boom, boom, boom. Su Fang flew in a strange arc in the air, and one blood-light fist after another ruthlessly crushed Sang Han. Sang Han was forced to retreat step by step, and he kept vomiting blood, and his body was also constantly broken. A dignified deity from the heavens was being overpowered by a cultivator from a large world, and one whose cultivation was only at the middle stage of the Tao realm. Such a scene stunned the cultivators of the Tianming Haotsong sect, and there was a loud bang in their heads. Wasn't a cultivator from a large world like an ant in front of a deity? Why was the situation reversed at this moment? Su Fang was about to kill Sang Han at all costs and get rid of this scourge when Luo suddenly shouted, "Su Fang, run! Run? In a dozen more breaths, I can guarantee that Sang Han will be suppressed. Run now?" The first supreme elder of the Tianming Haotsong sect and the demon saint, Ming Yen, are rushing here. It'll be too late if we don't leave now. Sang Han is just a slave of my clan, and when my primordial spirit escapes, it'll be easy to kill him. There's no need to take the risk for him. How could Su Fang be willing to give up now when he was so close to killing Sang Han? Even if he was unwilling, there was nothing he could do. He couldn't maintain his current state for too long. Even if he killed Sang Han, when the first Supreme Elder and Ming Yen rushed back, it would be difficult to escape their suppression. "Luo, you don't have to do it yourself. I'll kill Sang Han myself," Su Fang said domineeringly. Taking advantage of the fact that his physical body hadn't disappeared, he escaped into the void and disappeared without a trace. Sang Han had escaped by a fluke, and his heart was filled with joy. After a dozen breaths, the first Supreme Elder and Ming Yen returned one after another. Seeing Sang Han's sorry state, the first Supreme Elder and Ming Yen were shocked and surprised. Sang Han's clothes were blood-red, and the bloody light was dim. His clothes were tattered, and his body was covered with wounds. The usually high and mighty Sang Han looked like a beggar at this moment. "You two idiots, you keep saying that you want to suppress Su Fang, but Su Fang killed countless experts of the demon race and the Tianming Haotsong sect right under your noses. Su Fang just played a little trick and led you around by the nose. You two idiots." Sang Han was full of anger and had nowhere to vent it, so he vented it all on the first Supreme Elder and Ming Yen, scolding them both. "Humph." Sang Han snorted and angrily returned to the depths of the Tianming celestial land. He was seriously injured again, and it was almost impossible for him to recover. Before this, the first Supreme Elder and Ming Yen were chasing after the second primordial spirit. Under the pursuit of two demigod experts, the second primordial spirit couldn't handle it and had to abandon the body of first Supreme Elder Zhongsun, and then use the primordial spirit's supreme ability to roam the world to escape. The first Supreme Elder and Ming Yen were already furious, and when they received a message from the sect that Su Fang had appeared, they immediately rushed back. After understanding the situation, the first Supreme Elder spat out a mouthful of blood and roared, "Su Fang, I will not live under the same sky as you." Su Fang had been wanted all over the world, but he had killed his way into the sect. This time, the Tianming Haotsong sect's face had been smashed to pieces. Losing some face wasn't a big deal. Together with First Supreme Elder Zhongsun, who was a young immortal, the Tianming Haotsong sect had lost more experts this time than in the Great War of the Immortals and Demons. The Tianming Haotsong sect's sect master was still seriously injured. More importantly, the Tianming Haotsong sect's providence had been devoured by Su Fang. Experts could be nurtured, and the loss of vitality could be slowly recovered. But how could the loss of providence be recovered? Su Fang, since you are so ruthless, the Tianming Haotsong sect has no choice but to use our last trump card and suppress you at all costs. I will capture you alive and slowly strip you of everything and merge you into the Tianming celestial land to restore the Tianming Haotsong sect's providence. The first Supreme Elder gritted his teeth, and his eyes flashed with ruthlessness and determination. He looked like he was going to throw caution to the wind. Su Fang has the supreme ability to devour a sect's providence. Ming Yen also understood what had happened and was shocked to the core. He had heard before that Su Fang had the supreme ability to devour the providence of cultivators and even the demon army. He did not expect that. Su Fang could even devour the providence of the Tianming Haotsong sect, the #1 force in the immortal Tao world. If Su Fang used this supreme ability to devour the entire demon race's providence, wouldn't the demon race be annihilated? Moreover, Su Fang had overdrawn his physical body to possess god-level strength. In just a few hundred years, he had once again used this ability. Even Sang Han, a divine being, was almost killed. With such strength, who could compete with him? When I came to the large world from the myriad of worlds, I originally thought that it would be an extremely easy trial, yet I never imagined that I would actually encounter a formidable enemy like Su Fang. If I don't think of a way to kill him, then my trial assignment would be a failure, and my status in the clan would surely be at risk once I return to the myriad of worlds. Chapter 1686. Whoosh! Su Fang shuttled through the space-time turbulence. Jiuzhen Jiuyang 1705. The heavenly fate Haotsong sect has suffered such a huge loss this time. They will definitely go all out. I will avoid them for the time being. After I digest my gains and settle down for a while, I will return to the heavenly fate Haotsong sect. When that time comes, the great world will no longer have the heavenly fate Haotsong sect. Su Fang snorted, feeling extremely pleased in his heart. At this moment, Luo's voice sounded from the blood jade in the depths of Su Fang's body. A cultivator should be like this. Kill decisively and take revenge. Even if a strong enemy is in front of you, you must be brave and fearless. Only then can you cultivate a strong Tao heart and move forward on the path of cultivation. If you meet a god, you will kill a god. If you meet a demon, you will kill a demon. Whoever stands in your way will be killed. Luo, your murderous aura is really strong. No wonder you are the Azura King of the myriad worlds. Azura King? Right now, I am just a piece of trash with my body and essence soul separated. Otherwise, how would a mere slave dare to be arrogant in front of me? Luo, don't worry. Since I can gather all the blood jade, I will definitely be able to help you find your body when we reach the myriad worlds and let you completely recover your abilities. I am already very thankful that my essence soul can regain its freedom. As for finding my body, I don't have much hope. Who can say for sure what will happen in the future? Luo, you should consume the heart blood of the flame Kirin beast to recover your essence soul as soon as possible and break through the shackles of the crimson cage. There is no rush for now. My essence soul has just merged. It will not be too late to consume the heart blood of the flame Kirin beast after I adjust to my peak state. You, on the other hand, have once again overdrawn the potential of your perfected body. You must recover as soon as possible or it will affect your cultivation foundation. The repercussions of this method are too great. It is not advisable to use it unless it is a matter of life and death. Luo, I understand. Su Fang nodded and then began to think about the next step of the plan. The heavenly fate Haotsong sect would definitely use all means to deal with Su Fang at all costs. In the world of immortals, it was difficult for Su Fang to have a foothold. Even if Su Fang was not afraid, if he focused all his energy on dealing with the encirclement of the heavenly mandate Haotsong sect, it would definitely affect his cultivation. If he wanted to quickly increase his strength and destroy the heaven's mandate Haotsong sect, Su Fang had to find a place to temporarily lay low. Su Fang, I suggest you go to the ancient battlefield of immortals and demons. Ancient battlefield of immortals and demons? Why? Luo spoke slowly. The primordial immortal demon battlefield will not only allow you to temporarily escape the pursuit of the heaven's mandate Haotsong sect, but you can also rapidly increase your strength there. It's killing two birds with one stone. Luo, I'm very curious. Since you came from the myriad realms, why are you so familiar with the ancient immortal demon battlefield of the great world? Not only the ancient battlefield of immortals and devils, I even know many things about the ancient era of the great world. That's because before I became the Azura King, I came to the great world to train in the ancient immortal demon battlefield. Back then, I even joined the human side and participated in the great war of immortals and demons. Who knows how many elites of the demon race died at my hand? It's not just me. Many powerful forces and disciples of the god race in the myriad realms use the ancient immortal demon battlefield as a training ground. The Yellow Spring Great Emperor went to the ancient immortal demon battlefield in the past. Outyen Chonhen also went there to search for the inheritance of the Outyen clan. Even before the Kuan Yao died, he sent Senior Qingyu to the ancient immortal demon battlefield to search for the inheritance of the Prung clan. Isn't the ancient immortal demon battlefield the battlefield of the great war of immortals and demons? Why is it so mysterious? The ancient immortal demon battlefield is the true origin of the great world. If you don't go there, it will be difficult for you to reach the peak of the great world. I can't tell you exactly what's there. You'll know when you get there. I'm really looking forward to the ancient immortal demon battlefield. After I recover, I will go to the ancient immortal devil battlefield. RBVZ 5J Reading Biscuit exchange coupon. After finishing his conversation with Luo, Su Fang randomly found a ruin and entered the True Dragon Realm. The True Dragon Realm turned into a speck of dust and hid in the ruins. The Heavenly Fate Haotsong sect had a supreme ability to sense auras in a large area. Su Fang didn't dare to be careless. He fused the Heavenly Fate Death-taking art with the True Dragon Realm's aura to conceal it before entering the Time Cavern abode. Whoosh! After forming the seal, Su Fang's body shattered and turned into a pool of blood that immediately filled the small room. This couldn't be helped. The Time Cavern abode that Xu Yunkong created with the Supreme Time Reincarnation Great Tao was very small and had a certain impact on Su Fang's cultivation of the Yellow Spring Blood Sea. However, cultivating in the Time Cavern abode could save 10 times the time, which was enough to make up for all the shortcomings. Whoosh! The pool of blood spiraled and crazily devoured all kinds of pills, spiritual items, and resources to recover the huge consumption. About 3 years later in the Time Cavern abode, Su Fang finally completely recovered the huge consumption caused by overdrawing his perfect realm body. With a thought, a demon monkey appeared above the pool of blood. This demon monkey was a demon sage. It was suppressed by the Heavenly Fate Haotsong sect and refused to submit. In the end, its primordial spirit lost consciousness and was only left with a body. It was indeed a peerless big goblin at the demon sage level. Even without its primordial spirit, its body still exuded a violent and unruly aura, as well as an incomparably majestic life force. When such a big goblin was at its peak state, even a demigod expert would find it difficult to suppress it. It was far from what an ordinary human peak Tao realm cultivator could compare to. Su Fang also admired this demon monkey very much. However, admiration was admiration, and he still devoured what needed to be devoured. If I hadn't taken you away from the Heavenly Fate Haotsong sect, you would have become a cultivation tool for the demon race. Instead of that, why don't you help me, Su Fang? I promise you that one day, I will definitely eradicate the Heavenly Fate Haotsong sect and take revenge for you. Su Fang said. Whoosh! A pool of blood wrapped around the demon monkey and swept it into the Yellow Spring Blood Sea. Sizzle! The demon monkey's fur and skin were gradually corroded by the blood. Then, its flesh and blood turned into a pool of blood. The flames of life ignited and emitted a series of shocking roars in the room. The demon qi contained in the demon monkey's body was absorbed by Su Fang into his golden elixir origin. It constantly charged towards the peak of the midstage Tao realm. Suddenly, roar! A roar that Su Fang found familiar came from the Heaven and Earth Tao Palace. It was an angry roar that sounded extremely unreal. Following that, a huge commotion came from the extinguished soil at the base of the World Tree. It turned out that the remnant consciousness of the demon monkey that had been refined by the heavenly fire divine lord of the divine world seemed to have sensed the blood and chi of its own kind. It actually automatically emerged from the extinguished soil again. This demon monkey was definitely not comparable to the demon monkey that was devouring. One was a demon sage of a large world, and the one in the extinguished soil was a divine monkey. Su Fang sensed that the demon monkey's aura in the yellow spring blood sea was flowing into the Heaven and Earth Tao Palace. Su Fang Dao was shocked. The divine monkey's consciousness was actually devouring the demon monkey's life essence. Luo, who was in the blood jade, was also alarmed. He was also very surprised. I didn't expect your Heaven and Earth Tao Palace to be cultivated to such a level in such a short period of time. Moreover, there was a divine monkey's consciousness hidden in that pile of ashes. Su Fang told Luo about the divine monkey. Luo sighed. The story of this divine monkey has spread all over the divine world. Even I have heard of it. Who would have thought that you would be able to obtain the extinguishing soil of the divine monkey, and even a strand of its divine will? Su Fang asked. The divine monkey's consciousness appeared once before. It exploded with a powerful will. If not for it, I would not have been able to kill the divine cauldron holy man. Now that it has appeared again and automatically absorbed the demon monkey's life essence, it won't cause me any trouble in the future, will it? Luo Si-Soa said after a while, it shouldn't. What exists in the extinguished soil is just a consciousness. As long as the heavenly fire divine lord doesn't die, this consciousness will not disappear from the world. It won't target you. The demon monkey is the same as it. By absorbing the demon monkey's life essence, this consciousness will become stronger. You can use this to your advantage. Use? Have you forgotten about the Yellow Spring Devil Emperor's immortal blood spirit? Immortal blood spirit. It was based on the Yellow Spring Blood Sea, a physical body forbidden technique. It used various spiritual items and forbidden spells to create a blood spirit that became a host. Through the Yellow Spring reincarnation technique, a cultivator's primordial spirit consciousness could be transferred, possessed, devoured, and fused into the blood spirit's body, thereby achieving immortality. Although the divine monkey's consciousness was just a consciousness and not a primordial spirit consciousness, the divine monkey was an incomparably powerful existence in the divine world. This consciousness was no small matter. By constantly devouring the life essence of the demon monkey and going through a special primordial spirit forbidden spell, the divine monkey could regenerate its primordial spirit consciousness. If Su Fang could create a blood spirit and let it live in the blood spirit, he would be able to cultivate it into an extremely powerful battle slave. Using the method of creating the immortal blood spirit to cultivate the divine monkey into a battle slave? Su Fang was shocked by the bold idea. It's just a hypothesis. The premise is that not only do you have to cultivate the Yellow Spring reincarnation technique to the extreme, but you also have to perfect the Yellow Spring Devil Emperor's Yellow Spring reincarnation technique. Furthermore, you have to have the supreme strength to contend with the gods who control the heavenly way of the macro world. Otherwise, once the immortal blood spirit appears, it will chase you to the ends of the earth and kill you. At this moment, Su Fang already understood that the so-called heavenly punishment was a divine world faction that controlled the heavenly way of the macro world, and not the supreme heavenly way of the universe's cycle of reincarnation. I wonder if Shinja Tianjun, who sent down the heavenly punishment, killed the Yellow Spring Devil Emperor, and destroyed the Yellow Spring Immortal World, is the divine world faction behind the Heaven's Mandate Haotsong sect, the divine world faction behind the Heaven's Mandate Haotsong sect? However, if I can go to the divine world one day and become an overlord, I will definitely find Shinja Tianjun and kill him to repay the Yellow Spring Devil Emperor's great kindness in inheriting my legacy. I still have to establish the immortal reincarnation path in the divine world and fulfill the Yellow Spring Devil Emperor's unfulfilled wish. Su Fang had obtained the Yellow Spring Devil Emperor's legacy and was considered his successor. When he became powerful in the future, he would naturally avenge him. At this moment, the weapon spirit of the Yellow Spring Reincarnation Sword's voice came from the Heaven and Earth Tao Palace. Master, I look forward to the day when you can avenge the old master. I also hope that you can perfect the immortal reincarnation path. Chapter 1687. Gugugu, Jiuzhen Jiang 1706. Sizzle. The netherworld blood sea was roaring, and the flame of life was burning naturally. The blood water crazily devoured the demon monkey's body and turned it into life essence, causing the netherworld blood sea to constantly expand and expand. Not only was the area changing, but the ability of the netherworld blood sea was also transforming and sublimating at the same time. The divine monkey's consciousness in the extinguishing soil was also constantly absorbing the demon monkey's life essence, but there were no visible changes for the time being. The life essence devoured by this consciousness was refined by Su Fang's netherworld blood sea, and it also contained Su Fang's consciousness. When it devoured the demon monkey's life essence, it also allowed Su Fang's consciousness to unknowingly merge with the divine monkey's obsession. Although it could not affect the divine monkey's obsession for the time being, at least it was not rejected. One day, as the divine monkey's obsession continued to devour the life essence, it would produce a primordial spirit consciousness, and it would be subtly influenced and controlled by Su Fang. Then it would create the immortal blood spirit and become the physical body of the divine monkey's primordial spirit consciousness. Maybe it would really be like what Luo said, and cultivate a powerful battle slave, Jiuzhen Jiang 1706. Of course, no one knew how many years this would take, and Su Fang did not have much hope. In the time cave, he had cultivated for about 100 years, but more than 1,000 years had passed in the outside world. At this time, Su Fang discovered a drawback of the time cave, and that was, the speed of life essence in the time cave was also 10 times that of the outside world. However, Su Fang had amazing life essence, and losing this bit of life essence was nothing to him. On this day, the blood water in the room tumbled and condensed into Su Fang's physical body. He flew out of the room, and then directly left the true dragon realm, and came to the ruins. Su Fang's eyes were hale and hearty, revealing an excited and expectant look. It turned out that after such a long time of cultivation, Su Fang felt that the cultivation of the netherworld blood sea had reached a peak. Using the perfect sensing ability, Su Fang also activated the heavenly secret life-taking technique. After sensing that there were no cultivators around, he began to form seals. Bang! Bang! Su Fang's flesh, blood, tendons, and bones shattered layer by layer, turning into a puddle of blood. The bloody water roared and surged incessantly. It was like an overflowing ocean that swept out in all directions and covered an enormous area. 10,000 feet of bloody water, that was an area of 70 miles of bloody water. This area was completely covered in bloody water. How shocking was that? In an instant, the sea of blood seemed to have obscured the heavens and the earth. It spiraled and whistled, releasing a terrifying reincarnation and devouring power. It was as if the heavens were about to be devoured. At this moment, Su Fang felt that his great perfection senses were nearly 3 times stronger than before. Fire Cloud Darch Body, Blood Transformation True Body, Black Lotus True Body, Formless Golden Dipper Body, and other true body abilities could be instantly activated and used with great agility. Furthermore, their strength had increased by quite a bit. The biggest change was his devouring ability. Whoosh! The spinning speed of the blood water suddenly sped up. A surge of reincarnation divine might rose into the sky and swept out in all directions. Boom! Boom! The reincarnation divine might spread out in all directions, covering an area of 10,000 miles. The void was distorted, and even the laws of energy circulation were collapsing layer by layer. The energy of heaven and earth was in chaos. The material fragments, dust, and natural spiritual chi in the space were all attracted and surged into the netherworld blood sea. In an instant, they were all devoured by the terrifying devouring power. Whoosh! After the bloody water shrank, it condensed into Su Fang's true body. With a shake of his hand, he shook off the material fragments and dust that had just been devoured. As for the natural spiritual energy of heaven and earth, it was devoured and refined by him. In Su Fang's mind, Baishan Ancient Demon described the terrifying scene of the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor using the Acheron Blood Sea to devour a force. Corpses were everywhere and piled up like mountains. The heavens and earth had turned into a sea of blood. Devouring everything was the true ability of the Acheron Blood Sea. If Su Fang used his great perfection physical body and the various true bodies built on it, his devouring ability would be even more terrifying. He could be said to be invincible in the great world. This kind of devouring was not only devouring matter and energy. When fighting with the enemy, he could even use the Acheron Blood Sea to devour the enemy's flesh, blood, and vitality. He could use the power of reincarnation and devouring to disintegrate the enemy's divine ability and aura. I can also easily devour a force when I use the Acheron Blood Sea now. Its power is not inferior to the Acheron Blood Sea that the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor used in the past. At this moment I have cultivated the Acheron Blood Sea to the extreme, and I have the Acheron Golden Body of the Yellow Springs Great Emperor. Moreover, I have various true bodies that the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor did not have back then. My Acheron Golden Body is even more powerful than the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor's. Sensing the majestic and powerful vitality in his body, Su Fang was overjoyed. After cultivating the Acheron Golden Body, as long as he had a drop of blood and a young immortal, he could be resurrected. Even without a young immortal, a drop of blood would have a near-eternal vitality. This was the great benefit that Su Fang brought to cultivating the Acheron Blood Sea to the extreme and cultivating the Acheron Golden Body. What I inherited from the Yellow Springs Great Emperor was not only the Acheron Blood Sea, but also the Acheron Reincarnation Art. Back then, the Yellow Springs Great Emperor went against the heavens and tried to create an immortal reincarnation, but he failed in the end. Unlike the Great Emperor, I can complete his last wish and perfect the Acheron Reincarnation Art and create an immortal reincarnation path. The Acheron Blood Sea was a peerless cultivation technique that the Yellow Springs Great Emperor comprehended. Later on, the Yellow Springs Great Emperor comprehended the Acheron Reincarnation Art from the Reincarnation Sword. When cultivated to the extreme, he could create a true reincarnation cycle and immortality. Unfortunately, the Yellow Springs Great Emperor failed. Because he violated the heavenly Tao, he was punished by the heavens, and eventually, he and the Yellow Springs immortal world were destroyed. Back then, the Yellow Springs Great Emperor used the Acheron Blood Sea as the origin and the Acheron Reincarnation Art as the divine power to create the Yellow Springs immortal world. He also created the reincarnation law in it and covered the entire immortal world with the divine power of reincarnation, so that all the aura, matter, and life in the immortal world would be endlessly reborn in the divine power of reincarnation. He used the Acheron Blood Sea as the origin to create the immortal blood spirit. Because they were resurrected in the Yellow Springs immortal world, they did not abide by the heavenly Tao. When they absorbed the natural spiritual chi outside the Yellow Springs immortal world, it was equivalent to absorbing the aura of the heavenly Tao, causing their consciousness to fall into the demonic path. What I cultivate is the supreme heavenly Tao. The heaven and earth Tao Palace is the world. When my world is completed, I will be the world's heavenly Tao and create an immortal reincarnation in the world. Who can punish me then? Even if Master Shu Yunkong died, as long as there is a wisp of his soul left, I can resurrect him with the help of the immortal blood spirit. My family and friends can also achieve immortality in my world. Su Fang's eyes were hale and hearty. At this moment, he made a great ambition in his heart, and that was to perfect the Yellow Springs reincarnation manual, cultivate it into a world of his own, and create a true immortal reincarnation so that all his family and friends could live forever. Law exclaimed in shock from the blood jade in his body, "Your ambition is simply heaven-defying. If it were anyone else, including the Yellow Springs Great Emperor, I would definitely snort in contempt. But if it's you, I believe that one day in the future, you can really do what the Yellow Springs Great Emperor failed to do. You can create a miracle that has never been seen before. I look forward to the arrival of this day." Law reminded him, "Before you truly possess the supreme strength to contend with the existence that controls the heavenly Tao, you must be careful. There is a supreme existence that controls the heavenly Tao of a macro world, and there is also a mysterious existence that controls the heavenly Tao of myriad world. Once you defy the heavens and punish you, you will be reduced to ashes." Law, I will remember. I will never repeat the mistakes of the Yellow Springs Great Emperor. Su Fang smiled confidently. Then Su Fang took out a flying boat Tao tool and handed it to his subordinate. He himself entered the cabin of the flying boat and then entered the true dragon realm. Biscuit exchange voucher whoosh. The flying boat left the ruins and went straight to the ancient battlefield of immortals and demons. Su Fang entered the time and space cave and continued to devour the remaining body of the demon monkey, as well as various pills, to attack the peak of the middle stage of the Tao realm. It won't take long for his strength to increase greatly. Su Fang would not touch the heart-blood of the fire-scaled beast for the time being. When Law adjusted to his best state, he would use the Yellow Springs blood sea to devour it. At that time, he would extract the blood chi from the heart-blood of the fire-scaled beast to help Law break through the bloody cage. As for the remaining fire energy, Su Fang could use it to attack the Yang Meridian. About 10 years later, in the true dragon realm, a red-haired old man came to the time and space cave where Su Fang cultivated. It was old monster Zhu Tian. After so many years, old monster Zhu Tian had been refining pills in the true dragon realm's alchemy hall. His cultivation realm had not improved much, and now he was only at the 5 Tao Saint immortal realm. This speed of improvement was considered good in the great world, but among Su Fang's subordinates, it was only considered low. However, old monster Zhu Tian's identity was extraordinary in the true dragon realm. Apart from Bai Ling, Emperor Zhu, and the other big goblin who had followed Su Fang from the small world, he had the highest status. That was because the Yin-Yang Immortal Sky Pill and the King Grade Pills were all made by him. Ever since Su Fang saved old monster Zhu Tian's daughter in the Tianming Haotsong sect, old monster Zhu Tian was completely loyal to Su Fang. He focused on refining pills for Su Fang. Although his cultivation realm had not improved much, his alchemy skills had reached the top level in the great world. This time, Su Fang had subdued an alchemy master in the Tianming Haotsong sect to help old monster Zhu Tian. At this time, the true dragon realm's alchemy hall suddenly had 2 more top alchemy masters, and the overall alchemy skills had greatly improved. "Master, I have an important matter to discuss with you." Old monster Zhu Tian cupped his fists and shouted towards the depths of the cave. Looking at his red face, one did not know what good news it was. One of Su Fang's Yang Immortal flew out of the cave. "Old monster Zhu Tian, did you have a breakthrough in alchemy?" Chapter 1688. King Grade Yin-Yang Immortal Sky Pill. You actually refined a King Grade Yin-Yang Immortal Sky Pill? Su Fang was both surprised and delighted. He simply couldn't believe it. 8 unspecified currency 8 unspecified currency reading unspecified currency book. Oh, the Yin Yang Immortal Sky Pill could help condense the power of Yin and Yang. Not only could it assist in cultivation, but it could also bring about the power of life. It could cause the blood and qi in the body to boil faster and help in recovery. After Su Fang came to the great world, in the constellation of 9 heavens, he used the aphrodisiac pill as the foundation to refine the yin-yang immortal sky pill. From then on, the yin-yang immortal sky pill became an important pill for his cultivation. However, after entering the Tao realm and becoming an immortal supremacy expert, the yin-yang immortal sky pill was not very useful to Su Fang's cultivation. It was mostly used to help in recovery. Old Monster Zhu Tian had refined a peak supreme grade yin-yang immortal sky pill a long time ago. However, he had never been able to refine a king grade yin-yang immortal sky pill. Unexpectedly. He really didn't expect it. At this moment, Old Monster Zhu Tian had actually refined a king grade yin-yang immortal sky pill. Whoosh! Su Fang's original body directly walked out from the depths of the cave abode. Where is the king grade yin-yang immortal sky pill? Old Monster Zhu Tian grabbed from his storage ring and spat out a xianguang. A grayish-white pill floated in the xianguang. Yin-yang immortal sky pill. Different from the peak supreme grade yin-yang immortal sky pill, this pill was slightly larger and covered with spirit patterns. It faintly emitted the aura of yin and yang. A pill could actually emit the aura of the great Tao. It was simply unbelievable. Let's see how different a king grade yin-yang immortal sky pill is from a peak supreme grade one. The king grade yin-yang immortal sky pill, which was about the size of a pearl, was swallowed by Su Fang. It immediately turned into a wisp of spiritual smoke and flowed down his throat into his body. After 4 to 5 breaths, the yin and yang power that Su Fang was very familiar with suddenly exploded in his body and directly fused with the true qi in his body. At the same time, all the true qi in his body turned into the yin-yang true qi that turned into pills. Furthermore, there was also a medicinal pill's power that caused Su Fang's blood qi to surge and burn within his body. If the yin-yang genuine qi and vital blood qi transformed from the yin-yang immortal sky elixir of the highest grade was a mountain spring, then the power transformed from the king grade yin-yang immortal sky elixir of the highest grade was an explosive mountain torrent. Even with Su Fang's current cultivation and incomparably powerful physical body, he immediately felt the obvious changes brought about by the elixir. It was this yin-yang immortal sky pellet that allowed Su Fang's blood to condense a lot of yin and yang energy. His blood and qi were boundless, and his flesh and blood had also strengthened a little. 6. Su Fang was trying to break through to the advanced level of the Tao realm. If he had the help of a large number of king-grade yin-yang immortal sky pills, the time he needed to break through to the intermediate level of the Tao realm would be greatly shortened. Old Monster Zhu Tian, you've made a great contribution this time. Su Fang was very happy and praised Old Monster Zhu Tian. This is mainly because Master's strength has increased and the yin and yang energy has reached a higher level. In addition, the alchemy master that Master has just subdued is also very capable. Only then can you successfully refine the king-grade yin-yang immortal sky elixir. Old Monster Zhu Tian rubbed his hands excitedly. He was very concerned about Su Fang's praise. Then he said, however, refining the king-grade yin-yang immortal sky elixir not only requires the highest grade of spiritual water in the great world, but also requires real treasures. Besides me and the alchemy master, no one else can refine it, so we can't refine it in large quantities. This is also something that can't be helped. Refine as many as you can and quickly refine some. My cultivation is now at a critical moment, so I need a lot of yin-yang immortal sky elixir of this grade. There aren't many materials needed to refine the elixir. Master must purchase a large number of materials as soon as possible. Don't worry about the materials. Immediately find an immortal world and find the Great Star Hall to trade. It just so happens that the equipment refining dojo and the Alchemy Dojo have refined a large number of magic treasures and elixirs over the years. They are just about to deal with them. Su Fang nodded and was about to turn and enter the cave residence. Unexpectedly, old monster Zhu Tian stuttered. "Master," Su Fang asked in surprise, "what is it?" "There's no harm in saying it. That. Master, this time I refined the King-grade Yin-Yang Immortal Sky Elixir, and made a great contribution to Master. Can I ask Master for a favor?" "Say it. As long as I can do it, I won't be stingy. My daughter Yuro is not young anymore. I want to find a Tao companion for her." Su Fang was startled and immediately said, "This is a good thing. What's there to be afraid of? If you like anyone, I'll directly propose marriage for you." "Master, ever since you saved Yuro in the heavenly fate Haotsang Sek's skyward golden palace, she can't forget you. So the Tao companion she wants to find is Master?" Su Fang was dumbfounded. A burst of laughter came from the blood jade in Luo's body. "Not bad, not bad. How can I not accept a woman who sends herself to my door? If you accept this woman named Zhong Yuro, not only can you solve your physiological problems when Xuanxin is not by your side, you can also make old monster Zhu Tian wholeheartedly refine pills for you. Such a good thing, how can you miss it?" Su Fang directly ignored Luo's words and said to old monster Zhu Tian, "You should know my nature. I have never been fond of women. Besides Xuanxin, I have no other Tao companions and will not find any other Tao companions. Tell Miss Zhong that I'm really sorry." After saying that, Su Fang hurriedly walked into the cave residence, looking like he was fleeing. Old monster Zhu Tian was very disappointed. He sighed heavily and helplessly left Su Fang's cultivation hall. On this day, Feng Ling, who was driving a flying boat, came to the cabin where Su Fang was cultivating in seclusion. "Brother Su, the chaotic sky great world is in front of us. Feng Ling, Tuayu, and the others were cruelly used as cannon fodder by Tianming Haotsang sect during the Great Immortal Demon War. They were taken by Su Fang to carry out a mission with no chance of survival. Therefore, they became Su Fang's subordinate. After the Great Immortal Demon War, they did not return to their sects but stayed in the Zhenlong world. The cultivation resources they obtained were more than 10 times more than in Tianming Haotsang sect. At this time, Feng Ling had not only become an immortal venerable expert, but his cultivation realm was also about to reach the middle stage of the initial stage of the Tao realm. Such an improvement speed was very shocking even in Tianming Haotsang sect. Su Fang did not treat him as a slave but as a friend. The chaotic sky great world? Let's go and have a look. Su Fang had not been in contact with the cultivation civilization of the great world for a long time and felt that he was about to fall out of touch with it. This time, he was going to purchase the materials needed to refine the King-grade Yin-Yang Immortal Sky Elixir and trade with Grand Star Hall. At the same time, he also wanted to inquire about the current situation of the great world. In addition, Su Fang's cultivation had encountered a shackle. His cultivation realm had reached the peak of the initial stage of the Tao realm, but he was still unable to advance to the middle stage of the Tao realm. This was not something that could be solved by secluded cultivation. He needed to go out and search for opportunities. Therefore, Su Fang left his blood and water doppelgangers in the Cavern of Time to continue cultivating various cultivation methods and divine abilities, while his true body left the Zhenlong world. After putting away the flying boat, Su Fang went straight to the chaotic sky great world. The chaotic sky great world. It was far away from the central immortal domain and at the edge of the immortal Tao world. The reason why it was called the chaotic sky great world was because the natural force of heaven and earth here was chaotic and violent. The immortal realms were divided into countless small planes by the natural force and were in a state of chaos and disorder. According to Luo, the chaotic sky great world was formed by many huge planes of the immortal realms in ancient times. The reason why it was like this was because of the great war of the immortals and demons in ancient times. Even gods had participated in the war. The collision of supreme divine abilities had caused the great world to be shattered and divided into scattered planes of the immortal realms. The chaotic sky great world was surrounded by all kinds of wastelands, dangerous places, and dangerous places. It produced many treasures of heaven and earth. There were also many relics and secret realms left from ancient times, which attracted countless cultivators to come and search for treasures. Therefore, the chaotic sky great world showed a kind of abnormal prosperity. The most powerful force in the chaotic sky great world was called the Supreme Sacred Sect. It occupied the largest plane of the immortal realm in the chaotic sky great world. Therefore, this immortal realm was called the Supreme Sacred Immortal Realm. Let's go to the Supreme Sacred Sect. After arriving at the immortal realm's royal city, Su Fang put on a golden mask and walked toward the barrier passage that led to the royal city. Although this place wasn't within the Heavenly Mandate Bright Firmament Sect's sphere of influence, the Heavenly Mandate Bright Firmament Sect had placed a huge bounty on Su Fang's head in the great world. There was no guarantee that someone would take the risk out of desperation. Although Su Fang wasn't afraid, he didn't want to get into any unnecessary trouble. Therefore, he deliberately put on a mask and suppressed his aura to that of a ninth Tao Saint Immortal. Unless the Heavenly Mandate Bright Firmament Sect's Supreme Grand Elder activated the Great Encirclement Formation again to sense Su Fang's aura or bumped into a demigod expert, even a peak stage Tao Realm expert wouldn't be able to recognize Su Fang. Because the world energy in the chaotic sky great world was abnormally chaotic, every immortal realm had a powerful barrier around it. The barrier entrance to the Supreme Sacred Immortal Realm's royal city was a huge arched door created by divine abilities and formations. Cultivators constantly passed through the arched door. For some reason, there were many cultivators entering the Supreme Sacred Immortal Realm. There were also many cultivators dressed as mercenaries. Su Fang even saw a few Tao Realm experts among the cultivators waiting to enter the Supreme Sacred Immortal Realm. One had to pay a shocking amount of immortal stones to enter the Supreme Sacred Immortal Realm. Naturally, Su Fang didn't lack immortal stones. After paying the fee, he walked toward the arched door. Su Fang's gaze landed on a Tao artifact painting hanging on the side of the arched door. He couldn't help but raise his eyebrows as a trace of coldness flashed in the depths of his eyes. 360 search. Half-floating / equals. It turned out that the Tao artifact painting was a wanted list. The target was Su Fang. The Heavenly Mandate Bright Firmament Sect still hasn't given up after suffering such a huge loss. Su Fang sneered. Not only was Su Fang wanted on the Tao artifact painting, but Li Haojie, the Lord of Five Poisons, the Green Feather Demon Emperor, the Great Monk Shangde, the Ghost Dao's 5 Freaks, and other friends and slave masters were all wanted. Their names were densely packed in a long row. The Heavenly Mandate Bright Firmament Sect's offer made even peak stage Tao Realm experts feel a rush of excitement. Even Su Fang felt envious when he saw it. On the other side of the wanted list was a cultivator shackled. Buzz. Chapter 1689. The cultivator who'd been shackled to the arched door had committed some kind of serious crime. His hands and feet had been impaled by nail-shaped Tao treasures and fused with the arched door's formation. Unless one had the power to shake the entire world's boundary, there was no way to save him. Yen female sign 8 yen female sign 8 yen female sign read yen female sign books. 230 yen. Who knew how long he'd been hanging there? His skin had been dried by the wind, making him look like a corpse. His face couldn't be seen clearly, and his fiery red hair was disheveled. His aura was weak, and he seemed to be on his last breath. It's him. Not only did the Heaven's secret life shrinking art react, Su Fang's perfect ability also sensed that within this person's extremely withered aura, there was a desolate aura unique to the 9 Heavens Star Palace. Qi Yanzi. Qi Yanzi was a special disciple of the constellation of 9 heavens. His talent was extraordinary, and he was also a tribulation taker. Su Fang had saved him many times. Su Fang had saved the leader of the constellation of 9 heavens and Qi Yanzi from the great Qin immortal emperor in the depths of the Lightfall abyss in the Lightfall realm. The ungrateful leader of the constellation of 9 heavens had been slain by Su Fang, and Qi Yanzi had separated from Su Fang and ventured out alone. Who would have thought? Who would have thought that he'd meet Qi Yanzi again in the chaotic heaven great realm, countless immortal realms and great worlds away, and that he'd fallen to such a state? Su Fang's great perfection ability swept over Qi Yanzi, and he discovered that his cultivation had reached the early stages of the Tao realm. In just a few thousand years, Qi Yanzi had risen from a world immortal to such a high level. As expected of a tribulation taker, he was often blessed with great fortuitous encounters and fortunes that ordinary people couldn't. Although Qi Yanzi's aura was weak, his dantian and golden core were still intact. His Tao path hadn't been destroyed. Su Fang remembered that in the Thunder Waterfall Abyss, Qi Yanzi had once obtained the inheritance of an ancient immortal called Venerable Hui Qi. At the same time, he had also been recognized as master by an ancient beast, Hui Qi. At this time, Su Fang could not sense the aura of a Hui Qi from him. Su Fang had saved Qi Yanzi because he was a tribulation taker. With Su Fang's current strength, he naturally wouldn't take a beginner Tao realm immortal venerable seriously. However, Su Fang admired Qi Yanzi's talent and character very much. Moreover, he was an old friend of the constellation of 9 heavens. Now that he had met him, he naturally had to save him. Su Fang didn't want to make a big deal out of it. He was thinking of a way to save Qi Yanzi. At this time, more than a dozen cultivators dressed as mercenaries flew over. Haha, the heavenly mandate Hao Tsang sect actually increased the reward for Su Fang. What a big deal! If we're lucky one day, even if we don't capture Su Fang with our own hands, we'll know where he is and report to the heavenly mandate Hao Tsang sect. The reward will be enough for us to squander for the rest of our lives. The mercenaries pointed at the Axis painting Tao artifact, looking very tempted. There were countless treasures and ruins in the chaotic heaven great world. Therefore, there was an endless stream of cultivators who came to seek treasures. Mercenaries were also the most common presence. Among these mercenaries, there were several immortal venerables. One of them was a mid-stage Tao realm expert. Such a group of mercenaries could be considered top-notch in the great world. Hearing these mercenaries' words, Su Fang's eyes exuded a cold chill. Su Fang had risked his life to resolve the crisis of the immortal Tao world. How could he not feel disappointed when he received this in return? Suddenly, a burly man among the mercenaries glared at Su Fang and scolded disdainfully, "What are you looking at? You're only a sage immortal. You want to capture Su Fang? You really don't know what's good for you." He then scolded his companions. If it weren't for Su Fang, the immortal Tao world would have fallen into the hands of the demon race and the resurrected experts. All of you would have either been devoured or enslaved. Although we're mercenaries and live on the edge of a blade, we can't be ungrateful. Otherwise, what's the difference between us and those beasts? The mercenaries blushed and shut their mouth. Another acquaintance. Today seems to be a good day. Su Fang glanced at the burly man and smiled under his mask. Su Fang was no stranger to this mercenary. His name was Tsang Shui. He'd once captured Dai Yi and planned to sell her to Grand Elder Yun of the Grand Star Hall. After learning of the relationship between Dai Yi and Su Fang, Tsang Shui not only released Dai Yi, but also found a way to meet Su Fang. He worshipped Su Fang almost to the point of fanaticism. He didn't expect to meet Qi Yanzi and then Tsang Shui in the chaotic sky great world. It could only be said that the chaotic sky great world was too small. The leading mid-stage Tao realm mercenary lowered his voice and said, "Tsang Shui, don't speak nonsense. If you offend the sacred sect, not only will you suffer, but we'll also suffer. Look at Cultivator Hong, who's being shackled by the sacred sect. You'll know the consequences of speaking up for Su Fang. Boss Hong Jun, if you're afraid of death, you can take the other brothers and leave first, Song Shui said coldly and walked toward the sacred sect cultivators guarding the boundary. A supreme sacred sect cultivator from the Blue Blood dynasty cupped his fists and said, "Brother, what crime did that person commit to be hung there?" Seeing Song Shui's strength, the sacred sect cultivator was very polite. "This person is called Qi Yanzi. He was a guest elder of our sacred sect and was very strong. Unfortunately, he was found to be from the same sect as Su Fang and was handed over to Heaven's Mandate Haotsong sect. He's been hung up there for 300 years. The words of the supreme sacred sect cultivator were clearly heard by Su Fang with his peak hearing. His heart was filled with anger and killing intent. Same sect as Su Fang? Song Shui raised his eyebrows and smiled. He's already half dead. He'll die sooner or later if he hangs there. Why not sell him as a slave? I'm in need of slave masters and am willing to pay a high price for him. Brother, please report this to the upper echelons of sacred sect and you'll be rewarded. What do you think?" Su Fang didn't expect Song Shui to want to save Qi Yanzi. He had a good impression of this mercenary. Well, the sacred sect cultivator hesitated. At this point, two cultivators walked out from the immortal world inside the arched door. The one in the lead was a handsome young man in a golden robe, with a golden crown on his head. He had the aura of an early Tao realm expert, and a surge of vital energy and the power of monarchs emanated from him. He had the loftiness of an overlord. The other cultivator was an old man with an imperious aura. His strength had reached the advanced stage of the Tao realm. Moreover, Su Fang also sensed a very familiar aura from the heavenly mandate Haotsong sect cultivator. The sacred sect cultivators bowed to the young man. Young master of sacred sect. The golden-robed cultivator was the young master of sacred sect. Su Fang sensed a fire-hornless aura from the young master and knew that he was the one who took Qi Yanzi's fire-hornless beast. Qi Yanzi, who was already on the verge of death, suddenly opened his eyes and looked at the supreme saint young master with hatred in his eyes. "Elder Qi Yanzi, you can only blame yourself for being Su Fang's former sect mate. Don't blame me." The young master smiled in disdain. He then continued, "Qi Yanzi, as long as you hand over that treasure, this young lord will plead with the Heaven's Mandate Haotsong sect on your behalf to spare your life. Why should you throw your life away for a treasure?" Qi Yan's purple eyes burned with anger. He wanted to curse the supreme saint young master, but he couldn't make a sound. "Stubborn, let's see how long you can last." Young Master Supreme Saint sneered and ignored Qi Yanzi. Instead, he turned to Song Shui. He said imposingly, "You want to spend a lot of money to buy scarlet purple?" "Yes," Song Shui said. The young master's face darkened. "He's Su Fang's henchman. Take him down." More than 100 cultivators of the supreme sacred sect guarding the arched door rushed up and surrounded Song Shui and the mercenaries. Cultivators from the supreme sacred sect also flew out from the royal city inside the arched door. Now, even Su Fang was surrounded. The leader of the mercenaries, Hong Jun, said, "You must have misunderstood. Song Shui is just a mercenary who exchanged his life for money. How can he be Su Fang's henchman?" The middle-level Tao realm cultivator from Heaven's Mandate Haotsong sect said. "He spoke for Su Fang just now. If he's not Su Fang's henchman, then what is he? Take him down." The sacred sect cultivators rushed forward to capture Song Shui and the mercenaries. Even Su Fang wasn't spared. Song Shui wasn't afraid. He laughed and said, "I, Song Shui, want to be Su Fang's henchman. Even if I'm just a slave, it's still an honor. Unfortunately, I don't have such an opportunity." "How dare you? Take them all down!" shouted the supreme sacred young master. Boom! A tyrannical flame burst out of Supreme Saint Young Lord's body and fiercely attacked Song Shui, sending him flying away. The flames on his body burned fiercely. Song Shui was an early-level Dao realm immortal venerable and a veteran mercenary. Who would have thought that the young master would be able to injure him so severely? The young master was so young, but his strength was so terrifying. Suddenly, the flame on Song Shui's body shot toward a direction and landed in the palm of a cultivator. The flame flashed and was absorbed into the cultivator's body. It turned out that Su Fang had made a move. His 9 sons' immortal fire was superior to all the flames in the great world. All flames had to yield under his flame aura. Although the young master's flame was overbearing, how could it compare to Su Fang's 9 sons' immortal fire? Under the divine might of Su Fang's flames, they could only be obedient. Su Fang walked out and said imposingly, "He only spoke a few words on behalf of Su Fang, and you want to suppress him? Isn't that a little too overbearing?" Chapter 1690. Brat, you probably don't want to die fast enough. Jiuzhen Zhiyang Chapter 179. More than a dozen supreme sacred sect cultivators smiled sinisterly and surrounded Su Fang. These cultivators were brought here by the supreme sacred young master, and the weakest among them was an immortal emperor of the 7 paths of the saint immortal realm. Su Fang smiled faintly and ignored these supreme sacred sect cultivators. Flames appeared under his feet, and he came to Song Shui with lightning speed. "I'm Su Fang, don't resist." You. Song Shui looked at Su Fang in disbelief like a block of wood. Su Fang shot out a Xianguang and took Song Shui into the true dragon realm. In the true dragon realm, Song Shui was still in a daze. He couldn't believe what had just happened was real. One of Su Fang's young immortals came to Song Shui. "You're not bad. If you're willing, you can stay by my side. I promise you won't be any worse than you being a mercenary." With a thought, a storage ring was sent to Song Shui by the true dragon realm's Dharma treasure. Song Shui grabbed the storage ring and saw that there were 10,000 peak supreme grade yin-yang immortal sky pills inside. He felt like he had been hit in the head by a huge pie that fell from the sky. He was so dizzy that he couldn't tell north from south. At this moment, Dai Yi flew over. "Song Shui, it's your great fortune to be able to follow Su Fang. With his current strength, ordinary Dao realm cultivators won't catch his eye at all." Only then did Song Shui realize how lucky he was today. Outside Su Fang's body, more than a dozen supreme sacred sect cultivators rushed toward Su Fang from behind. "Yellow spring blood sea, devour." A surge of samsara divine might burst out of Su Fang's body and formed a whirlpool around him. It turned out that Su Fang had crushed the flesh and bones under his skin and turned them into blood to activate the yellow spring blood sea's ability. The terrifying devouring power drew the dozen or so cultivators towards him. The cultivators of the supreme sacred sect all turned pale with fright. They cast their spells or activated their Dao weapons, trying to get rid of the devouring power of Su Fang's underworld blood sea. However, they were shocked to discover that not only were they unable to control their bodies, the divine might of their divine abilities and Dao artifacts were also disintegrating and collapsing under the terrifying devouring power. Jiuzhen Zhiyang Chapter 179. What was even more shocking was that their qi blood, genuine qi, and life aura were leaking out bit by bit. They were sucked into Su Fang's reincarnation vortex and then seeped into Su Fang's body. Looking from the side, Su Fang was shrouded in a blood mist vortex, looking very evil. In just a few breaths of time, the flesh and blood of more than a dozen cultivators of the supreme sacred sect were devoured by the Su Fang, turning into shriveled corpses. Su Fang withdrew his divine power, and the corpse fell beside him. After cultivating the yellow spring true body, the power of the yellow spring blood sea was terrifying. It killed more than a dozen experts with ease, and there was even an early-stage Dao realm expert among them. In an instant, Su Fang turned into a terrifying evil god that devoured lives in everyone's eyes. Su Fang's early-stage Tao realm aura also leaked out. A cultivator of the evil path. This man is actually a cultivator of the evil path, and an early-stage Tao realm immortal venerable expert. The cultivators of the supreme sacred sect all cried out. The old man of the heavenly mandate bright firmament sect said majestically, "A mere early-stage Tao realm cultivator of the evil path dares to behave so atrociously in front of me? I'm from the heavenly mandate bright firmament sect and originally wouldn't intervene in the affairs of the supreme sacred sect. But since this matter is related to Su Fang, I have no choice but to suppress you and strip your memories. Remember my name is... Your name is not worthy of being known by me. Besides, you're about to die, so why should I know your name?" Su Fang interrupted the old man domineeringly. "Arrogant junior, you're courting death." The old man was infuriated. After performing the hand seal, he separated his hands, causing a monstrous wave to surge out from between his palms. It carried a terrifying aura that seemed to be able to devour everything as it rumbled towards Su Fang. Boom! Su Fang wanted to test the power of the golden body of the Nether and use other divine abilities. Instead, he activated the reincarnation sword intent and formed a seal to release the reincarnation divine aura that collided with the old man's monstrous torrent. Monstrous waves splashed out like raging waves crashing against the shore, causing the surrounding cultivators of the supreme sacred sect to stagger. Even the huge barrier and arch of the immortal world shook violently. Boom! 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 Under the effect of the reincarnation divine aura, the torrent was led to the side and circled around Su Fang. Reincarnation! Rumble! The torrent formed by the heavenly mandate bright firmament sect's old man's divine ability was all reversed and crushed toward the old man. The old man's divine light flickered, and he hurriedly formed a seal to confront Su Fang with all his might. "How dare a heretical cultivator like you act so atrociously in the supreme sacred sect's territory?" The supreme sacred young lord shouted coldly. Scorching flames burst out from his body, and a 3-meter-long fire-hornless dragon could be vaguely seen circling in the flames. "Fire-hornless dragon, incinerate this man!" The supreme sacred young lord pointed at Su Fang, and the fire-hornless dragon roared and pounced towards Su Fang like a fire dragon. A scarlet fire-hornless dragon? Su Fang raised his eyebrows and released a supreme divine dragon aura. The aggressive Wu had suddenly turned into a well-behaved and obedient little snake. It curled up and shivered, as if it had encountered the most terrifying existence in the world. Su Fang released a dragon aura that wrapped around the fire-hornless dragon and shackled it inside the void dust cauldron. "Give me back my fire-hornless dragon!" The supreme sacred young lord roared in disbelief, and released a divine aura that seemed to gather the power of the entire world of immortals. It came crashing down on Su Fang with supreme dominance. The heavenly mandate bright firmament sect's old man also formed a shocking seal and sent a torrent of water toward Su Fang like the Milky Way from the 9 heavens. "Since you're courting death, don't blame me for being merciless." Su Fang sneered in his heart and fully unleashed the Nether Blood Sea's reincarnation aura. Boom! Space twisted and distorted. The supreme sacred young lord's aura shattered layer by layer under the Nether Blood Sea's power. His blood energy, true chi, and life force were also rapidly drained away. The Milky Way descending from the sky also crumbled under the Nether Blood Sea's reincarnation aura and dissipated into nothingness. Not only that, but the supreme sacred young lord and the heavenly mandate bright firmament sect's old man also lost control of their bodies and began to move toward Su Fang. They couldn't use any combat arts in the face of the Nether Blood Sea's reincarnation and devouring power. Their blood energy, true chi, and life force leaked out of their bodies and were directly devoured by Su Fang. The deadlock lasted for about a dozen breaths. A ruthless glint flashed in the old man's eyes. His true chi, blood energy, and life force suddenly ignited. He was planning to burn everything in him to use a forbidden art to break free from the nether blood sea's shackles. Second nascent spirit, suppress his nascent spirit and strip his consciousness. I want to see why the heavenly mandate bright firmament sect sent such a powerhouse here. Su Fang immediately released his second nascent spirit. Whoosh! The black mystic light shot out from between Su Fang's eyebrows and hit the old man's forehead with a pop sound, drilling into his mind. With the power of his second nascent spirit and the Dark Valley origin orb, it could even fight against a demigod. Suppressing a mid-level Tao realm cultivator would be a piece of cake. Soon, the old man's eyes became dazed and his burning true chi, body, and life force calmed down. This person's memories are quite interesting. The second nascent spirit suddenly exclaimed after searching the old man's soul. Su Fang couldn't care less about the old man's memories for the time being. It's your turn now. The supreme sacred young lord was still struggling. Su Fang sneered disdainfully and walked up to him. He reached out and pressed his palm against the young lord's head. This is the supreme sacred sect. My grandfather, the supreme sacred forefather, won't let you go if you kill me. The supreme sacred young lord threatened Su Fang loudly, but his body trembled. He was clearly terrified. I even dared to kill the experts of the heavenly mandate Haotsong sect, let alone you. Besides, I've already killed a dozen. What's one more? Su Fang said coldly. Suddenly, a nascent spirit flashed out and cupped his fists at Su Fang. Fellow Taoist, I am the supreme sacred forefather. Can you give me some face and let my descendant go? The cultivators around gasped. The supreme sacred forefather was a high-level Tao realm cultivator in the chaotic sky great world. He was the founder of the supreme sacred sect and his strength was unrivaled in the chaotic sky great world. At this moment, he suddenly appeared, and he seemed to be very polite to Su Fang. He actually treated Su Fang as an equal. Su Fang's divine light swept the scroll on the arched door and looked at Qi Yanzi. Su Fang said indifferently, "The supreme sacred young lord didn't want to give me face just now, and neither did your supreme sacred forefather. In that case, I won't care about anyone's face." Wait. The supreme sacred forefather was already wary of Su Fang when he saw Su Fang kill the experts of the heavenly mandate Haotsong sect as if they were chickens. He didn't know how strong Su Fang was, so he was even more wary of Su Fang now. Su Fang said indifferently, "What else do you have to say? Let my descendant go and I won't make things difficult for you. You can leave. How about it?" "Nothing." Su Fang's eyes flashed with murderous intent. Boom! Blood exploded from Su Fang's palm and covered the supreme sacred young lord's body, sizzling as it corroded. The supreme sacred young lord screamed as his body was quickly corroded by the blood. He was absorbed into the blood and absorbed into Su Fang's body. The mercenaries and cultivators around the arched door were all shocked. They looked at Su Fang as if he was an evil monster. This evil cultivator is so arrogant. He didn't care about the supreme sacred forefather at all and killed the supreme sacred young lord in the supreme sacred sect's territory. The supreme sacred forefather has been famous for many years. No matter how strong this evil cultivator is, how can he be a match for him? Chapter 1691. Good, very good indeed. The supreme holy ancestor's nascent spirit's shadow settled down for a moment before a cold, lifelike smile appeared on his face. This fellow Taoist isn't domineering at all. When I come out of seclusion, I'll definitely pay you a visit. I'll stay in the supreme holy immortal realm for 3 days. I won't be late, Su Fang said nonchalantly. His casual voice carried a sense of arrogance that looked down on experts. High-level Tao realm experts were considered peerless figures in the great world, but they were nothing in Su Fang's eyes. With Su Fang's current strength, it would be easy for him to destroy the supreme holy sect. This fellow Taoist isn't domineering or arrogant at all, but don't forget that even a mighty dragon can't suppress a local snake. The Supreme Holy Ancestor's nascent spirit snorted before vanishing. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Eyes filled with shock and awe all fell on Su Fang. Who was the Supreme Holy Ancestor? He was a peerless figure who had dominated the chaotic sky great world for tens of millions of years, but he didn't dare to do anything when this golden-masked cultivator killed his grandson in front of him. The so-called visit after coming out of seclusion was obviously because he was afraid of this golden-masked cultivator and was looking for a way out. Everyone was guessing who this golden-masked cultivator was and how terrifyingly powerful he was. Su Fang took the elder from the heavenly mandate Haotsong sect into the true dragon realm and handed him over to the Vermilion Emperor. He walked to Qi Yanzi and sent a message with his nascent spirit. Senior brother Qi Yanzi, I'm Su Fang. How are you doing? Qi Yanzi suddenly raised his head and looked at Su Fang, his eyes revealing a look of disbelief. 9 True 9 Sons, 1701 chapter. Open your mouth. Su Fang flicked a king-grade yin-yang immortal sky pill, which Qi Yanzi swallowed. A few breaths later, Qi Yanzi's body, which was on the brink of death, suddenly burned with vitality. Although it was not very boundless, Qi Yanzi was no longer on the brink of death like before. Su Fang then urged the purple Qi Dharma spirit to release a mysterious purple Qi, which rolled around the nail-like Tao artifact that shackled Qi Yanzi's hands and feet. Buzz buzz under the supreme control of the purple Qi Dharma spirit, the 4 iron nails trembled. In the end, it was forcefully peeled off from the arched door and sucked into Su Fang's body by the purple Qi. Qi Yanzi's body fell from above and was caught by Su Fang. Then, he sent him to the true dragon realm and gave him a large number of pills to help him recover. This time, Qi Yanzi's origin Qi was greatly damaged. Without 100,000 years of cultivation, it would be very difficult for him to recover to his peak state. Fortunately, Su Fang had the yin-yang immortal sky pellet. This time would be greatly shortened. Su Fang glanced at the wanted list, and a mocking smile appeared under his mask. Then, he entered the arched door and arrived at the Supreme Saint Immortal Realm. Su Fang's actions once again caused an uproar among the cultivators. After killing the Supreme Saint Young Master and a powerhouse of the heavenly mandate Haotsong sect, not only did he not run away, he entered the Supreme Saint Immortal Realm without a care in the world. This was the height of arrogance. The mercenaries with Tsang Shui were all terrified. Whether it was this golden-masked cultivator or the Supreme Saint sect, they were not people they could provoke. They hurriedly left the Supreme Saint Immortal Realm. Royal City of the Supreme Saint Immortal Realm. Unlike the immortal cities of the great worlds that Su Fang had seen before, the royal city of the Supreme Holy Immortal World was filled with countless floating objects. It looked like a messy piece of clothing that had been pieced together. There were all kinds of strange buildings on the floating objects, as well as a few forests and rivers. A huge mountain peak floated at the highest point. It looked like it had been cut in half by a god, leaving only the top half. Immortal mist curled around the mountain peak. Tall pavilions and palaces poked out from the mist. This was where the Supreme Saint Immortal Realm's power was concentrated. The Supreme Saint Forefather lived there as well. Streams of people shuttled back and forth in the city. Each of the cultivators here exuded a fierce and bloody aura. It was obvious that they often ventured into dangerous places. As soon as he entered the city, Su Fang sensed a nascent spirit's consciousness locking onto him, followed by a few cultivators from the Supreme Saint sect. Su Fang smiled sheepishly and ignored them. If the Supreme Saint sect refused to give up, they would only be humiliating themselves. Su Fang headed straight for the Grand Star Hall. There was a treasure here. On the way, Su Fang secretly communicated with his second nascent spirit. Second nascent spirit, what did you find in the memories of that powerhouse from the heavenly mandate Haotsong sect? Even you are so surprised. From the memories of that powerhouse from the heavenly mandate Haotsong sect, I learned that he didn't come to the chaotic sky great world just for you, but for a newly born sacred land. I've known about this sacred land since I was in the small world. It has something to do with an old friend of mine. A sacred land that everyone in the small world knows about? You mean Cloud Heaven Sacred Ground, Huang Lingyao. Su Fang was stunned. Soon after, his heart was in turmoil. Cloud Heaven Sacred Ground. It was built by the original owner of the Cloud Heaven Thunder Sword, Mother Yun. It was not too long ago, which was millions of years ago. For some reason, the Cloud Heaven Sacred Ground had suddenly disappeared from the great world. Mother Yun's whereabouts were also unknown. The Cloud Heaven Thunder Sword, one of the famous 10 great Tao artifacts, had also fallen into the small world and been fused with by Huang Lingyao. Some people guessed that the Heavenly Mandate Bright Firmament sect hated the Cloud Heaven Sacred Ground for its sudden rise in power and was annihilated by the Heavenly Mandate Bright Firmament sect. Mother Yun was killed, and the Cloud Heaven Sacred Ground was destroyed by the peerless experts of the Heavenly Mandate Bright Firmament sect. There were also rumors that Mother Yun had ascended to the divine world and brought the Cloud Heaven Sacred Ground with her. She had intentionally left the Cloud Heaven Thunder Sword in the small world to find a new successor. Unexpectedly, the Cloud Heaven Sacred Ground's appearance in the chaotic sky great world attracted the attention of the Heavenly Mandate Hao Tsang sect. Su Fang guessed that the sudden appearance of so many cultivators in the Supreme Sacred Sect was most likely for the Cloud Heaven Sacred Ground. Su Fang immediately sent a young immortal to ask Zhang Shui. The results confirmed Su Fang's speculation. About 100 years ago, the Cloud Heaven Sacred Ground's sudden appearance had spread throughout the chaotic sky great world and the celestial realm. At that moment, powerhouses from all directions were rushing to the chaotic sky great world. Even the demon race had sent powerhouses. However, due to the short time, no true peerless powerhouses had appeared yet. Su Fang obtained the spatial coordinates of the Cloud Heaven Sacred Ground from the memories of the Heavenly Mandate Hao Tsang sect's elder. The Cloud Heaven Sacred Ground's appearance was not far from the Supreme Sacred Celestial Realm. It was located in a desolate void. However, the Cloud Heaven Sacred Ground was currently surrounded by a mysterious and strange sea of cloud. Even immortal supremacies would lose their sense of direction when they entered. Many of them did not even return. Huang Lingyao. The appearance of the Cloud Heaven Sacred Ground must be related to Huang Lingyao. When the Cloud Heaven Sacred Ground suddenly appeared, Su Fang's first thought was Huang Lingyao. Huang Lingyao and Long Xiaojun had followed Heavenly Mandate Hao Tsang sect to the Heavenly Mandate Hao Tsang sect. In the end, the two of them disappeared at the same time in a dangerous training ground organized by the sect. The Heavenly Mandate Hao Tsang sect determined that the two of them had died in the dangerous place. However, Su Fang was certain that Huang Lingyao would not die so easily. This woman was able to fuse with the Cloud Heaven Thunder Sword. She was also someone with supreme providence. Moreover, she was quick-witted and vicious. How could she die so easily? It was even more suspicious that she had disappeared at the same time as Long Xiaojun. Huang Lingyao had fused with the Cloud Heaven Thunder Sword. Using the Tao artifact's ability to sense the Cloud Heaven Sacred Ground, it was not difficult for her to find and control the Cloud Heaven Sacred Ground. A woman like Huang Lingyao will stir up trouble no matter where she goes. In the past, I needed to look up to her, but now… Haha, she's not even worth mentioning. Sooner or later, I'll meet her again. At that time, I'll directly kill her and completely resolve the grudge between us. As for the Sky Sacred Ground, I'm not interested. Su Fang now had countless treasures in his hands, including the dual swords of destruction, the immortal slaying bow, one of the 10 great Tao artifacts, the underworld reincarnation sword, the Xianming Thunder Scroll, and the great Xian Xiu Mengyu? Where does Zai Yi live? Which ding? Prostitute, crowbar, oyster, and soul? Do you want to sit on a stool and wear a polyester coat? Li Dianji Shi Xian Li Aoa's Su Fang's strength continued to increase. He rarely relied on Dao artifacts when fighting against strong enemies. He even directly gave peerless Dao artifacts like the twin swords of annihilation to Dugumujian. No matter how extraordinary Huang Lingyao's Sky Thunder Sword was, why would Su Fang care about it? As for the sky's sacred ground, no matter how powerful it was only an inheritance belonging to a great world expert. Su Fang was even less interested in it. At this moment, Law spoke from deep within his body. Even a peerless Dao artifact like the Sky Thunder Sword and the inheritance of the sky's sacred ground can't interest you. Then, can Huang Lingyao interest you? Haha. Back then, she seduced you, and you took advantage of her. Why don't you take her in? Su Fang replied earnestly, Law, although you're my senior, I still have to warn you. You're transforming into a shameless person. If you don't hurry up and stop before it's too late, you, the Azura King, will become the king of shamelessness. Ahem. It's a waste of youth if you're not a romantic. When you become an old monster who has cultivated for countless years, it'll be too late for regrets. Su Fang no longer bothered with Law and asked, Law, are you ready to devour the heart-blood of the flame Qilin beast and break through the shackles of the crimson cage? I'm almost there, but I can't be disturbed when I break through the crimson cage. You have to find a deserted place with abundant spirit qi. That's easy. Once I purchase the materials to refine the yin-yang immortal sky pill, I'll help you find a spirit land. Unknowingly, they arrived at the Great Star Hall. Just like the great star halls of the Great World, the Great Star Hall of the Supreme Sacred Celestial World was magnificent and exuded an unparalleled aura of wealth, forming a strong contrast with the environment of the royal city of the Supreme Sacred Celestial World. Su Fang stepped into the Great Star Hall. Chapter 1692. Su Fang's clothes looked ordinary, and he wore a golden mask. He didn't look particularly outstanding, and his cultivation was only at the 9th Dao Saint Immortal Realm, which was very common in the Supreme Saint Immortal Realm. However, Su Fang was the overlord of the galaxy in a lesser world, and the master of an immortal realm in a greater world. He'd also killed countless demon powerhouses during the Great War, and his every move exuded a domineering aura. The Grand Star Hall's business spanned the greater world, so the woman's eyes were naturally sharp. She could tell at a glance that Su Fang was no ordinary person. Right at this moment, the voice of a nascent soul transmitted to the woman. It was the head of the Grand Star Hall branch in the Supreme Saint Immortal Realm. The Supreme Saint Forefather contacted me personally. This person has just killed the Supreme Saint Young Master and a Dao Realm powerhouse of the Heavenly Mandate Bright Heaven sect. He should leave, lest we offend the Supreme Saint Forefather for no reason. Such a young cultivator killed the Supreme Saint's Young Master? He even killed a Dao Realm powerhouse of the Heavenly Mandate Bright Heaven sect. The woman gasped and her expression changed. The Grand Star Hall was a merchant guild, after all. They did business for profit. The Supreme Saint Forefather was a supreme existence in the Supreme Saint Immortal Realm. If they offended him, the Grand Star Hall's business in the Supreme Saint Immortal Realm would be in jeopardy. Although the Grand Star Hall was powerful, they wouldn't offend the Supreme Saint Forefather for no reason. Moreover, the Heavenly Mandate Bright Heaven sect was involved. The head of the Grand Star Hall branch in the Supreme Saint Immortal Realm received the Supreme Saint Forefather's message and immediately decided to turn Su Fang away, lest he draw trouble to himself. 9 Truths and 9 Sons Chapter 17:11. The woman immediately put on a cold expression and blocked Su Fang's way. My apologies, guest, but the Grand Star Hall does not welcome you. Please leave. Whoosh. There were many cultivators in the hall who had come to the Grand Star Hall for business. The commotion immediately attracted everyone's attention. Su Fang raised an eyebrow. What? Does the Grand Star Hall have a reason to turn away a guest? If it were any other guest, The Grand Star Hall would naturally welcome you with open arms, but you've just killed people from the Supreme Saint sect and the Heavenly Mandate Bright Heaven sect. We wouldn't dare do business with you." His gasps could be heard coming from the hall. Everyone looked at Su Fong with fear in their eyes. It was as if they had seen a scourge, and they subconsciously retreated into the distance. The Heavenly Mandate Bright Heavens sect was the greatest faction of the Supreme Saint Immortal Realm. The Supreme Saint Forefather. How daring he'd dared to kill people from those two sects in the Supreme Saint Immortal Realm. Some of the cultivators here were from the Supreme Saint sect. When they heard the woman's words, they didn't expect that the two cultivators Su Fong had killed were the Supreme Saint sect's young master and a mid-level Dao realm expert. They thought that they were just ordinary cultivators and immediately surrounded Su Fong. "My lords, this is the Grand Star Hall. Please don't fight here," the woman said apologetically to the cultivators from the Supreme Saint sect. "We'll let you live a little longer for the sake of the Grand Star Hall." The cultivators from the Supreme Saint sect sneered at Su Fong, as if they were certain that Su Fong would be dead. The woman knew that they'd misunderstood and didn't want to cause trouble. She didn't remind them and said to Su Fong, "Guest, please do as you please." Su Fong smiled faintly and took out a purple gold token. He threw it to the woman. "Let your hall master see this. He should know if he wants to do business with me." "The VIP waste token of the Grand Star Hall?" The woman was startled and looked at the purple gold token over and over again. The shape, style, immortal pattern, and aura of the token indicated that it was indeed a token that only the VIPs of the Grand Star Hall could have. With this token, one could enjoy a lot of special treatment. However, the VIP waste tokens of the Grand Star Hall were usually golden. The woman had never seen a purple gold VIP waste token before. "You want to swindle people in the Grand Star Hall with a fake token? Men, please send this guest out." The woman's face darkened and she immediately ordered the experts in the hall to chase Su Fong out. Su Fong touched the tip of his nose and shook his head with a wry smile. The VIP waste token of the Grand Star Hall was set up as a memorial to the cultivators who died in the battle at the Yunmeng Heavens. After that, Grand Star Ancestor had personally given it to Su Fong. Of course, it couldn't be fake. The VIP waste token that Patriarch Hongxing had personally given out was of the highest level in Hongxing Hall. Naturally, a person of the woman's status would not be able to come into contact with such a high-level VIP waste token. It seems that the higher the grade of the item, the more useful it is. As Su Fong shook his head, he channeled a strand of magic power into the waste token and activated it. Boom! A majestic aura was released from the token and turned into the figure of an old man. The terrifying aura of a demigod expert suddenly burst out. Everyone in the hall couldn't bear the terrifying pressure and trembled. The woman and the other cultivators of the Supreme Sacred Sect, who were closest to Su Fong, couldn't bear the aura of a demigod expert and knelt on the ground involuntarily. This is Grand Star Ancestor?" The woman naturally didn't have the opportunity to meet Grand Star Ancestor. However, she had seen a portrait of Grand Star Ancestor. Coupled with the terrifying aura released by the figure, it couldn't be anyone else other than Grand Star Ancestor. "Ask your hall master to come and see me," Su Fong said majestically and put away the token. Grand Star Ancestor's aura instantly disappeared. A middle-aged man in a brocade robe rushed down from upstairs. He was the hall master of the Grand Star Hall in the Supreme Sacred Celestial Realm. The man cupped his fists at Su Fong in fear. "I was blind to not recognize the VIP of the Grand Star Hall. Please forgive me." VIP. The woman in the court dress suddenly thought of something, and her face suddenly turned pale. Su Fong said coldly, "I have something for the Grand Star Hall to do. Let's talk upstairs." "Yes, sir." The man in the brocade robe quickly led Su Fong upstairs. The hall master of the Grand Star Hall was a top figure in the Supreme Sacred Celestial Realm. Everyone found it hard to believe that he was acting like a slave. One of the supreme sacred sex cultivators asked the woman in the palace robe, "Who is this person? What kind of Tao artifact is that token? It can release such a terrifying aura and make the hall master so respectful." The woman's eyes flashed with lingering fear. She said in a trembling voice, "Although I don't know who this person is, the VIP token in his hand is the VIP token of the Grand Star Hall. I once heard the hall master say that this token is personally given by Grand Star Ancestor. There are only 3 of them in the entire great world." The cultivator from the supreme sacred sect staggered, and a layer of sweat appeared on his forehead. Another expert of the supreme sacred sect asked, "The cultivators of the supreme sacred sect and the heavenly mandate bright sect that he killed must not be ordinary, right?" The cultivator of the supreme sacred sect that he killed was the supreme sacred young master. The cultivator of the heavenly mandate bright sect was a mid-level Tao realm expert. As soon as the woman in the palace robe finished speaking, the experts of the supreme sacred sect were so shocked that their eyes almost popped out of their socket. Their legs turned to jelly and they trembled as they walked out of the Grand Star Hall. They were so scared that they couldn't even fly. The hall master of the Grand Star Hall respectfully led Su Fong to a secret room on the 2nd floor. Su Fong released Wang Yuzhen from the Zhenlong world. "You're finally willing to let me out. I thought you wouldn't let me ride on your coattails anymore." Wang Yuzhen was still as shrewish as before. As soon as she came out, she gave Su Fong a resentful look. Ever since Su Fong left the Square Heaven world, Wang Yuzhen, a business genius, had no place to use her talents. She couldn't help but complain about Su Fong. Su Fong also had a headache about this former senior sister. He immediately sent her to the Grand Star Hall to do the transaction while he sat cross-legged in the secret room. Seeing Wang Yuzhen, Su Fong suddenly thought of Qi Yanzi. He immediately separated himself from a young immortal and went to Qi Yanzi, who was recuperating in the Zhenlong world. Qi Yanzi had swallowed a lot of yin-yang immortal sky pills and recovered a little of his life force. He was finally pulled back from the brink of death. However, he was still seriously injured and was far from fully recovering. Su Fong. Qi Yanzi struggled to stand up. Su Fong released a divine aura that made it difficult for Qi Yanzi to move. He said, "Senior brother Qi Yanzi, don't be so polite. We used to be in the same sect and can be considered friends." Qi Yanzi showed a grateful and ashamed expression. If he counted carefully, this was the 4th time he was saved by Su Fong. However, he didn't repay Su Fong in any way. This made him feel very guilty. Whoosh! Su Fong struck out a Xian Guang from his palm. Suppressed by the dragon Qi, Hua Qi coiled in the Xian Guang. This ancient mutated divine beast trembled under Su Fong's divine dragon aura like an obedient little snake. After Hua Qi was taken away by the Supreme Saint Young Master, it was forcefully sealed and barely controlled. However, its true master was still Qi Yanzi. Su Fong had already erased the seal after taking Hua Qi back from the Supreme Saint Young Master. When Hua Qi saw Qi Yanzi, it immediately roared like a dragon and struggled to fly to Qi Yanzi's side. Su Fong put away the dragon Qi shackles and Hua Qi flew to Qi Yanzi's side. After circling around for a few times, Hua Qi suddenly disappeared into his body. After obtaining Hua Qi's energy, Qi Yanzi's spirit immediately became hale and hearty. It was almost impossible for a mutated divine beast like Hua Qi to recognize a master. However, Qi Yanzi was able to tame Hua Qi, which showed that his luck was extraordinary. Qi Yanzi cupped his fists and said solemnly, "Su Fong, I can't thank you enough. From now on, my life is yours." Su Fong said unhappily, "Brother Qi, if you keep saying that, it means you don't treat me, Su Fong, as a friend. How can I be worthy of that?" What was Su Fong's current strength and status? He was a peerless figure who fought against the Heaven's Mandate Hao Tsang sect alone. He was definitely a peak existence in the outside world. Chapter 1693. Recommended reading. Chapter 1070. Obtaining the Flame Scale Beast's Heart Blood, Su Fang? Shao Zun. 9 True 9 Yang Chapter 170. It really is Shao Zun. Shao Zun has come to save us personally. Greetings, Shao Zun. Everyone reacted and knelt on the ground. They were so excited that they almost thought they were dreaming. Duan Xiuxiu's eyes flashed with excitement and a burning light. She stared at Su Fang with eyes full of worship. Su Fang unleashed a burst of divine might and lifted everyone up. Looking at the women, Su Fang said, "You've fallen into this situation because of me. Since I've encountered you, I naturally won't sit by and do nothing. If you're willing to come with me, I'll take you away from the Destiny Haotsong sect." The 100 women were overjoyed. How could they not agree to be able to escape the clutches of the demons and escape the miserable fate of becoming embryos? At this moment, Law sent a message to Su Fang through the blood jade in his body. "Su Fang, are you planning to expand your harem while Xuanxin isn't by your side? That's right, you should have done this long ago. Wang Yuzhen, Huang Fufei, Lan Haiqing. Don't leave out a single one. Take them all into your harem. That's how you'll look like the overlord of the great world." Cough, cough, Su Fang was careless and almost choked by Law's words. Ignoring the frivolous Law, Su Fang then said to the leaders of the 12 families, "If you're willing, I can also take away all the members of the 12 families of the Silent Great Planet. But you can't leak any information or your entire family will be implicated." Due to the relationship between the Silent Great Planet and the Silent Great Immortal Sovereign and Su Fang, the 12 families of the Silent Great Planet had been very miserable these years. They had been oppressed and humiliated by the middle-aged cultivator acting as the sovereign. This time, they were even forced to hand over their most outstanding women to serve the demons. It wouldn't be long before that scholarly middle-aged cultivator completely took control of the Silent Great Dojo. The 12 families would be swallowed up sooner or later. However, with the power of the Destiny Haotsong sect, no matter how big the great world was, there was no place for them. At this moment, Su Fang wanted to take them away from Silent Great Star and escape the Sea of Bitterness. How could they not be willing? The patriarchs of the 12 clans agreed one after another, deeply grateful to Su Fang. Jiu Zhen Jiu Yang Chapter 170. Su Fang made some arrangements and asked the 12 families to go back and prepare. Then, he handed the true dragon world to a blood clone and left it on the Silent Great Star. At the same time, Bai Ling, Zhu Huang, and the other powerful big goblin, as well as a dozen celestial prime experts under their command, stayed on the Silent Great Star to assist the 12 families in secretly migrating to the true dragon world. Su Fang was about to enter his second primordial spirit to control Grand Elder Zhangxuan's body when Zi Fan suddenly asked, "Shao Zun, is the sovereign doing well?" When he thought of his master's current situation, Su Fang's expression dimmed, and he placed Zi Satin into the Time Immortal abode. She was an old friend of the exalted immortal Ji Hong, so Su Fang naturally had to take special care of her. After Great Elder Zhang Sun absorbed Su Fang into his body, he once again returned to the Devil Clan's miracle to entertain the Devil Clan. Just as he was about to enter the divine ruin, buzz, 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 he sensed hundreds of cultivators flying toward the miracle with his perfected ability. A dozen of them were Devil Clan cultivators from the Devil World. 2 Devil Clan cultivators were surrounded by the crowd like stars surrounding the moon. One of them was a tall and muscular young Devil Clan cultivator. He had the strength of a mid-stage Dao Realm cultivator. He wore a dark golden robe and had an arrogant air about him. Su Fang sensed an aura from this Devil Clan cultivator that came from the same source as the Devil World's young lord, Qi Ming. From this, he deduced that this young Devil Clan cultivator should be the Devil World's lord's son. The other Devil Clan cultivator in the center of the crowd was the Devil Clan's holy son, Ming Yan. What shocked Su Fang was that Ming Yan gave him a completely different feeling than before. There seemed to be an incomparably powerful existence hidden in his body, causing his aura to become extremely violent and evil. The current Ming Yen gave Su Fong the feeling that he was even more terrifying than the Devil World's lord. The Demon Clan has countless evil techniques, and Ming Yen is from the Demon Clan. I have to be careful when I meet him this time. Su Fong secretly raised his guard. His second primordial spirit controlled Grand Elder Zhangsuan's body and entered the miracle, heading straight for the storehouse at the back. Due to the arrival of the Devil Race's diplomatic mission, all the Heavenly Mandate Hao Tsang sect cultivators in the miracle had gone to the palace at the front. Apart from a Grand Elder standing guard, there were no other cultivators in the storehouse. Grand Elder Zhangsun, why are you here? One of the great elders guarding the storehouse was surprised to see Grand Elder Changsun appear again. What, I can't come? Grand Elder Zhangsun asked imposingly. The Grand Elder hurriedly said, I wouldn't dare. Great Elder Zhangsun walked into the storehouse. His eyes swept across the interior of the storehouse, and he said indifferently, The Devil Race's diplomatic mission has arrived. The banquet will begin soon. Great Elder ordered this seat to come and check the situation. Call everyone here. This seat has something to say. Yes. Heavenly Mandate Hao Tsang sect had a strict hierarchy. How could the Grand Elder dare disobey an order? The hundreds of cultivators guarding the storehouse, as well as the alchemists, chefs, and servants, were all summoned. Su Fong activated his great perfection ability in Grand Elder Zhangsuan's body. After sensing for a while, he found that there was no one else in the storehouse. Only then did he send a message to his second primordial spirit, You can act now. Grand Elder Zhangsun and Ming Yen of Heavenly Mandate Hao Tsang sect are in the palace at the front. This time, we must strike without any disturbance. His second primordial spirit replied coldly, Only this high-level Tao Realm Grand Elder will be a little troublesome. The others are nothing to fear. I'll first use the power of the world of yin and yang to cover the storehouse. You use your primordial spirit's power to suppress this Grand Elder. This person is quite strong. It'll be best if you can make him a slave. After Su Fong finished his plan, he immediately absorbed most of his power into the World Tree. Boom! A surge of power from the world of yin and yang exploded from the Tao Palace of Heaven and Earth, engulfing his physical body and forming a powerful world aura that radiated out. It passed through the Grand Elder's body and covered the entire storehouse. With Su Fong's current strength, he could even suppress a peak high-level Tao realm cultivator by turning all of his true qi and energy into a world aura. Although he hadn't used all of his power, suppressing a high-level Tao realm Grand Elder and hundreds of ordinary cultivators was a piece of cake. Grand Elder Zhangsun, what is the meaning of this? The Grand Elder was shocked and looked at Grand Elder Zhangsun in disbelief. His body was shackled by the world of yin and yang and had completely lost his connection with the world. He couldn't move at all, nor could he use any abilities. His reaction wasn't slow. He immediately tried to send a message with his primordial spirit. Qi. A black xianguang shot out from between Grand Elder Zhangsuan's eyebrows. With a bang, the black light hit the Great Elder's glabella. The void shook, and the light drilled into his divine aperture ocean. The incomparably vast primordial spirit impact immediately shook his yang immortal to the point where he could no longer transmit his primordial spirit voice. At the same time, Qi, Qi, Qi. Su Fong controlled the world of yin and yang and immediately sent out a torrent of water from the space covered by the world of yin and yang. Everyone was sucked into his body and sent into the sky-shrouding nether coffin. Undead King, I'll leave them all to you. If they don't want to submit, just devour them. Su Fong separated a yang immortal and entered the sky-shrouding nether coffin. He looked at the struggling Heavenly Mandate Hao Tsang sect cultivators and said to the Undead King in a voice full of killing intent, Su Fong, you're Su Fong. You actually infiltrated Heavenly Mandate Hao Tsang sect. The second essence spirit stopped attacking the Grand Elder's essence spirit and flew out of his divine aperture ocean. This person had just escaped the danger of his young immortal being destroyed. Now that he recognized Su Fang, he fell into great shock again. The others also stopped struggling. Since they fell into Su Fang's hands, what was the point of continuing to struggle? It's best if you don't submit so that I can enjoy a good meal, Kiki. The Death Lord chuckled evilly and channeled the power of his Tao treasure to shackle the cultivators of the Heaven's Mandate, Hao Tsang. The Grand Elder was very strong and sneered in disdain. Su Fang, I have nothing to say now that I'm in your hands. It won't be long before Heavenly Mandate, Hao Tsang's sect suppresses you and submits to you. It's also a dead end. Since I'm going to die anyway, why should I submit to you? I advise you to give up. I'm the Grand Elder of Heavenly Mandate Hao Tsang sect, why would I submit to a traitor like you? You're just a high-level Tao realm cultivator, I don't lack such subordinates. Undead King. Su Fang's young immortal said coldly. Chi. Thank you for your help, Master. The Undead King smiled evilly and used a monstrous death aura to envelop the Grand Elder of Heavenly Mandate Hao Tsang sect. In less than 10 breaths, the man's life essence was completely devoured. The Undead King's aura became even more vast. He licked his lips and smiled evilly, looking at the remaining Heavenly Mandate Hao Tsang sect cultivators as if he had not had enough. I submit. Don't kill me, I'll submit. More than 100 Heavenly Mandate Hao Tsang sect cultivators spoke one after another. Su Fang did not care much about these cultivators. He only gave them a way out because it was not easy for them to cultivate. The Pill Master was very extraordinary. He was a Pill Master of Heavenly Mandate Hao Tsang sect, and his pill refining skills were considered top-notch in the entire Great World. What are you waiting for, the heart-blood of the Flame Scale Beast? Su Fang sensed the Flame Scale Beast's aura on the Pill Master and immediately shouted coldly. The Pill Master hurriedly took out a medicinal cauldron from his body and handed it to Su Fang with both hands. There were a total of 3 drops of burning blood flame the size of a baby's fist, and they were suspended in the cauldron. As expected of the Flame Scale Beast with the bloodline of the divine beast Qilin. No one knew how many years this beast had been killed, but the 3 drops of heart blood still exuded an extremely shocking life aura. They also contained powerful and extremely violent thoughts. Su Fang's young immortal released a furious roar in his mind as soon as his gaze touched the blood flame, almost shattering the young immortal. Chapter 1694. Qi Yanzi couldn't help but sigh at the sight of Su Fang's domineering aura. When he'd first met Su Fang had just ascended from a small world. He was weak and lowly. Only a few thousand years had passed since then. But now, Su Fang had grown to the point where he could look down on the strongest faction in the world of immortals. Qi Yanzi had always been proud of his talent and cultivation speed, but he'd lost the right to be proud in front of Su Fang. Compared to such a heaven-defying genius, I'm just asking for trouble. I'm lucky to be his friend. If I were his enemy... Qi Yanzi sighed in relief after a moment of helplessness. Looking at Yu Miaomei lying in Su Fang's arms, Qi Yanzi asked, "Is this Brother Su's little Tao companion?" Brother Su's tastes are quite broad. Not only does he like a cool beauty like Xuanxin, but he also likes young girls like her. Su Fang's face darkened. She's my little sister. Little sister. Tao companions calling each other brother and sister can indeed improve their relationship. Qi Yanzi chuckled, his expression saying, "You know what I mean." Law burst into laughter from the blood jade deep inside Su Fang's body. "Brother Qi, take your time recovering. I won't disturb you any longer." Su Fang's forehead beaded with sweat as he hurriedly withdrew his young immortal. While Su Fang was conversing with Qi Yanzi in the true dragon realm, the Supreme Holy Forefather had just received a piece of news in a palace at the peak of the half-broken mountain where the Supreme Holy Sect was located. That golden-masked cultivator has the Grand Star Hall's Supreme VIP waste token? The Supreme Holy Forefather's heart trembled. What kind of person could have the Grand Star Hall's Supreme VIP waste token? He was a high-level Tao realm expert who could dominate the entire chaotic sky macro world. However, he was nothing in front of such a character. Chapter 1713 9 Truths and 9 Sons. At that moment, the power of will suddenly descended into the palace. With a flash of profound light, it turned into the image of an old man in silver robes. He had the will of the heavens and a supreme aura that was above the heavens and the earth. "Supreme Holy Forefather," the elder exclaimed. "Senior, you are..." The Supreme Holy Forefather couldn't help but tremble. It was only a projection, but it was enough to make him feel as if he was facing the heavens. Such a person must be at the top of the world. The silver-robed elder introduced himself. "I am the Grand Elder of the Heavenly Fate Bright Sect." "Master," the Holy Forefather said, "you, the Supreme Holy Forefather, you. The Supreme Holy Forefather, you is. I heard that one of our sect's elders was killed in your extreme saint sect?" "That indeed. The Supreme Holy Forefather was, that's translation. The Heavenly Fate Bright Sect's mid-level Tao realm expert killed by the golden-masked cultivator was at least an elder in the sect. However, the death of an elder wasn't enough to alarm a supreme being like the Grand Elder. The Supreme Holy Forefather created an image with his mind and reenacted the scene. "It really is him." The shadow of the Supreme First Elder snorted. "May I ask who this person is, Grand Elder?" the Supreme Holy Forefather asked cautiously. "A friend of Su Fang's and a wanted criminal of the Heavenly Fate Bright Sect," the Grand Elder answered vaguely. "Where is this person now?" "This person is so arrogant that he dared to stay in the Supreme Holy Immortal World after killing someone. He's currently in the Grand Star Hall. I'll give you a chance, Supreme Holy Forefather. If you kill this person, I'll bestow upon you the position of Grand Elder of the Heavenly Fate Bright Sect and allow you to guard the chaotic sky great world for eternity. I'll also help you reach the peak of high-level Tao realm." The Grand Elder's words both surprised and delighted the Supreme Holy Forefather. But then he remembered how powerful the golden-masked cultivator was. Killing a mid-level Tao realm expert was as easy as killing a chicken. An advanced Tao realm expert like him was clearly no match for the golden-masked cultivator. No matter how great the reward was, he needed to be alive to enjoy it. "I won't let you die for no reason. I'll send the Heavenly Fate Bright Sect's peerless experts to the chaotic sky great world to help you. With the appearance of the sky sacred ground, experts from all over will gather in the chaotic sky great world. You can invite them as many as you want, and the Heavenly Fate Bright Sect will offer enough to tempt them. No matter how strong the golden-masked cultivator is, he'll be crushed to death by a pile of cultivators' lives." "How dare I defy Grand Elder's orders?" The Supreme Holy Forefather agreed without hesitation. In the distant Heavenly Fate Bright Sect, the Grand Elder stood with his hands clasped behind his back in the sky outside the boundary. With the help of the 81 dojos, the Grand Encirclement Formation allowed the Grand Elder's consciousness to sense most corners of the Great World. He could also project his will into the Great World, but it also consumed a great deal of his energy. He couldn't use this ability for long. "Su Fang, I'll use the lives of countless cultivators to break your Tao heart this time. Then I'll ask for the sect's final trump card. If I still can't kill you, then the Heavenly Fate Bright Sect will be destroyed," the Grand Elder muttered to himself with a murderous aura. Royal City of the Supreme Holy Immortal World. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. The efficiency of the Grand Star Hall was indeed unmatched. In addition, Su Fang had the highest level of VIP waste token. Everyone in the Grand Star Hall of the Supreme Holy Immortal World naturally did their best to prepare all the materials needed by Su Fang in just 3 days. Wang Yuzhen also fully displayed her talent in business. She traded the pills and Dharma treasures of the true dragon world with the Grand Star Hall. The Grand Star Hall even held an auction in the Immortal City for this. Among Su Fang's subordinates there was the Dead King, who could forge King Grey Dao artifacts. Needless to say, there was also old monster Zhu Tian and the alchemy master recruited from the Heavenly Fate Bright sect. The pills refined by them were naturally extraordinary. The Dharma treasures and pills of the true dragon world, especially the Yin-Yang Immortal Sky pill, attracted countless cultivators to bid for them. Wang Yuzhen, who was in charge of the auction, was also in the limelight, earning a lot of money for Su Fang. I'm de Ju Bing. In the past few days, the supreme holy immortal world and even the entire chaotic sky great world were surging with undercurrents. Countless peerless experts came to the royal city of the supreme holy immortal world. The Grand Star Hall was well informed. Naturally, these movements couldn't escape the Grand Star Hall's eyes and ears. After collecting and organizing the information, the Hall Master immediately reported it to Su Fang. When Su Fang received the news, he only smiled faintly and ignored it. After the auction, Su Fang also received the pill refining materials and prepared to leave the supreme holy immortal world. Su Fang planned to find the Dharma treasure fragments that Qi Yanzi had hidden in the nameless wasteland. At the same time, he planned to find a spiritual land for Luo Chong to break out of the Crimson Cage. Both of these were important matters. Before he left, the Hall Master of the Grand Star Hall came to visit him. My lord, the Extreme Sky Saint Patriarch has placed a bounty in the chaotic sky great world. As soon as you leave the Grand Star Hall, they will attack you. Why don't you stay in the Grand Star Hall for the time being? Su Fang's eyes flashed with a smile. I wonder how much my head is worth now? The Supreme Holy Patriarch had previously promised that anyone who could injure Su Fang would exchange a drop of blood for a peak Supreme Grade Dao artifact. Such a bounty could be said to be sky-high and murderous. Now that the Hall Master had come to remind him again, the Supreme Holy Patriarch must have increased the bounty again. What else could the Supreme Holy Patriarch offer? Su Fang was very curious. The Hall Master said embarrassedly, the Supreme Holy Patriarch promised that anyone who can injure you, regardless of your injuries, will be able to obtain a spot to enter the sky sacred ground. Su Fang raised his eyebrows. A spot to enter the sky sacred ground? The Supreme Holy Patriarch sure talks big. Is the sky sacred ground his private property? The Supreme Holy Patriarch is only at the advanced Tao realm. Even if he has the ambition, he doesn't have the strength to take the sky sacred ground for himself. It's the Heavenly Fate Bright Firmament sect. The Heavenly Fate Bright Firmament sect has announced that the sky sacred ground is their training ground. No one can go near it. Moreover, the Heavenly Fate Bright Firmament sect will send experts to seal the entire sky sacred ground and open a passage to the sky sacred ground through the dense fog. The Heavenly Fate Bright Firmament sect still doesn't know how to restrain themselves. They are still as domineering as ever. Su Fang's eyes were cold. Su Fang deduced that the Heavenly Fate Bright Firmament sect had already guessed his true identity. However, they had used the spot to enter the sky sacred ground as bait and used the immortal Tao cultivators as cannon fodder. They clearly wanted to use these cannon fodder to exhaust Su Fang's strength while they waited for an opportunity to strike and kill Su Fang in one fell swoop. Today, I will kill anyone who stands in my way. Those who stand in my way will die, Su Fang said coldly. Then, he strode out of the secret chamber and walked out of the Great Star Hall. Su Fang walked out of the Great Star Hall's main hall. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Countless gazes from the streets and the buildings on both sides of the street looked toward Su Fang. These gazes were filled with fear and greed as if Su Fang was a fat sheep. A drop of blood in exchange for a peak supreme grade Tao artifact. As long as they injured Su Fang, regardless of whether the injury was light or heavy, they would be able to obtain a spot to enter the sky sacred ground. At this moment, Su Fong was a fat sheep in everyone's eyes. However, this fat sheep was a little difficult to deal with. Su Fong's perfected stage ability swept in all directions. He could clearly sense the surrounding cultivators and even the cultivators who were hiding in the void for the bounty. Among these cultivators, most of them carried the origin energy of the chaotic sky great world. However, there were also cultivators from other great worlds and immortal domains. There were also many immortal venerables. There were also some peerless existences who were at the peak of the advanced Tao realm hidden in the void. Although these cultivators had different cultivation bases, strength, and backgrounds, they had one thing in common: greed. If you treat me, Su Fong, as a fat sheep, then you should be prepared to die. Su Fong walked out of the Great Star Hall and came to the street. Then, he slowly flew up into the sky. Such a calm demeanor and lofty domineering aura caused everyone to feel fear in their hearts. No one wanted to be the first to make a move. Chapter 1695. That's right. No matter how powerful this golden-masked cultivator is, he's only one person. How can he fight against so many experts? This is the supreme sacred sect with the support of the heavenly fate bright firmament sect. No matter where he comes from, he can't possibly defeat the heavenly fate bright firmament sect. I don't want to kill this golden-masked cultivator. I just want to injure him. A drop of blood can be exchanged for a peak supreme grade Tao artifact. Those who have the qualifications to enter the sky sacred ground will have the chance to obtain Mother Yun's inheritance. What's a little risk for such a fortune? Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Figures appeared from the ground, the air, and other floating objects. These cultivators were all murderous and greedy. They were like hungry wolves that bared their fangs and wanted to tear Su Fong, the lone fat sheep, into pieces. Today, if gods block me, I'll kill gods. If demons block me, I'll slaughter demons. Su Fong's voice was filled with killing intent. An old man stood in the sky above the supreme, sacred immortal world's king city with his hands behind his back. He had a hooked nose, a gloomy gaze, and an ethereal aura. He seemed to be one with the world as he stood there. None of the countless cultivators below noticed his presence. A young cultivator stood behind the hook-nosed old man. He was handsome and had an arrogant expression. His black Taoist robe had thunder Taoist patterns intertwined with dark golden Taoist patterns. If gods block me, I'll kill gods. If demons block me, I'll slaughter demons. I wonder where this frog at the bottom of the well came from. How arrogant! The young cultivator in the black Taoist robe curled his lips and sneered disdainfully. The hook-nosed old man said indifferently, "Master brought you out to train this time because our target is the sky sacred ground. This golden-masked cultivator can kill a mid-stage Tao realm cultivator of the heavenly fate bright firmament sect. He's quite extraordinary. He's just right for your trial." The young cultivator said proudly, "I've killed more than 1 or 2 mid-stage Tao realm cultivators. This golden-masked cultivator might be extraordinary, but if he wants to be my trial opponent, we'll have to see if he's qualified." There were many true peerless experts in the sky above the city, and they'd brought their disciples and geniuses to the chaotic sky world. Their objective was none other than the sky holy ground. Of course, he wasn't here for the bounty offered by the supreme sacred sect and heaven's mandate bright firmament sect. He was here to bring his juniors to broaden their horizons. If necessary, he would naturally take action. In the blink of an eye, hundreds of cultivators rushed to within 1,000 feet of Su Fong, unleashing powerful divine abilities or activating their Tao artifacts, bombarding Su Fong from all directions. Humans die for wealth, and birds die for food. How sad! Su Fong shook his head helplessly. Soon after, a cold light flashed in his deep eyes. Chi! Chi! 10,000 flying swords rushed out from Su Fong's palm like flowing water, circling and whistling around him, setting off a majestic aura that could kill everything in the surroundings. In an instant, the sword will roared and the murderous aura filled the sky. Pu. 10,000 flying swords were activated at the same time. What a spectacular sight it was! Furthermore, these flying swords were not simply controlled by the flying sword. Instead, each flying sword was activated to the extreme. 10,000 flying swords formed a huge sword formation. How terrifying would the aura that burst out together be? As they circled and whistled, the long river formed by the flying swords was like a huge meat grinder. The hundreds of cultivators around Su Fang were instantly minced into meat paste and blood. Such a terrifying scene caused all the cultivators to be shocked. The cultivators who were fighting to be the first to charge at Su Fang suddenly stopped, not daring to get close to Su Fang. The supreme sacred ancestor shouted, "He's controlling so many flying swords at the same time. Although he's powerful, how long can he last? Attack from a distance with Tao artifacts and break his sword formation. We can kill him in one fell swoop." Instigated by the supreme sacred ancestor, the cultivators who had been intimidated by Su Fang suddenly came to a realization. They took out their Tao artifacts and unleashed earth-shattering attack. Su Fang's river of swords shattered layer by layer and was gradually compressed. The cultivators' morale was greatly boosted, and their attacks became even more ferocious. The cultivators who had been watching on the sidelines also joined in the attack without hesitation. The cultivators were like dark clouds hanging over the border. Su Fang suddenly looked like he was in imminent danger. "Once the sword formation is broken, it'll be your death." The supreme sacred ancestor smirked. "Controlling flying swords is just a method I use to deal with these ants. Even so, my flying swords are not something a bunch of ants can break." Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Flying swords flowed out of Su Fang's palm like worthless scrap metal. They formed a sea of flying swords around Su Fang. 100,000 flying swords. Su Fang activated his purple cloud Dharma spirit, and a mysterious purple cloud circled around him. A supreme divine aura of controlling magic treasures made the 100,000 flying swords seem like a part of his body. They swept out in all directions like a boundless sea. Pained screams and cries of despair rang out one after another. Countless cultivators were ground into meat paste, and a rain of blood fell from the sky. The entire royal city of the supreme, sacred, immortal realm looked like a bloody hell. In a dozen breaths of time, there was not a single cultivator to be seen in the sky. They had either been killed by Su Fang or fled far away. Su Fang gathered the sea of swords to his side. Like a god of death, his swords were unstoppable wherever they went. Looking at the rain of blood in the sky, Su Fang smiled savagely. "It's a shame to waste so much blood qi." Shattering the insides of his body into blood, Su Fang activated the devouring power of the nether blood sea and spread it outward. Hiss, hiss, hiss. Strands of blood qi were attracted and gathered into a vast sea of blood mist. Next, Su Fang utilized the ethereal true scriptures Tao of illusion to condense his blood energy into walnut-sized blood beads. There were roughly 10,000 of them in total. Next, he collected them all into his body and gave them to his subordinate great yaos for cultivation. What an evil and cruel method! This scene caused the hearts of all the cultivators to be shocked once more, and they trembled as if they'd been doused head-on with a scoop of icy cold water, causing the greed in their hearts to be completely extinguished. "I don't like killing, but that doesn't mean I won't kill. If you don't want to die, scram." Su Fang's thunderous roar contained the divine might of lightning punishment. It rolled out in all directions and shook the entire immortal realm. Then, Su Fang steered his 100,000 flying swords toward the half-peak where the Supreme Sacred Sect's power center was located. The cultivators attracted by the sky-high bounty were afraid of Su Fang's strength and ruthlessness, but true experts had seen all kinds of dangers. They naturally wouldn't be scared off by Su Fang's words. After all, Su Fang's strength wasn't invincible. They all watched from afar, waiting for the right moment to strike. No one stepped forward to stop Su Fang. Supreme Sacred Forefather, you've incited so many people to kill me. Why are you acting like a coward? Come out. Su Fong came to the top of the half-peak and looked down like a god of death. The Supreme Sacred Forefather's gloomy voice rang out from the peak. You evil cultivator, everyone should kill you. Let's see how long you can be so arrogant after killing so many people from the chaotic sky great world. I killed your grandson, so it's understandable that you want to kill me for revenge. However, you're willing to be the lackey of the Heaven's Mandate Haotsong sect and incite so many cultivators to come to their deaths. You're unforgivable. From today on, the boundless sacred sect is no more in the chaotic sky great world. Su Fong's domineering voice caused an uproar. A coward who doesn't dare to show his true face dares to spout nonsense here about destroying a sect. A young cultivator in a black robe flew down from the sky. Another one who's willing to die for a bounty. Su Fong shook his head and sneered. This black-robed young cultivator had extraordinary strength at the early stage of the Tao realm. There was also a trace of thunder in his aura. It wasn't the violent and destructive thunder of nature or thunder, but an extremely rare type of Yin thunder. I don't care about a mere bounty. You're not worthy of being my test subject. However, since you're so arrogant, I'll lower my status and kill you. The black-robed young cultivator said indifferently in a domineering manner. Su Fong looked at the peerless expert at the peak of the advanced stage of the Tao realm in the sky and said indifferently, "Call your disciple back, lest you break your legacy." "I'd like to see how you're going to break my legacy," the old man replied disdainfully. "In that case, what a pity." Su Fong shook his head helplessly. "Show me your full strength, or you won't have another chance to use it," the black-robed young cultivator shouted coldly. Then, he formed a strange seal, and a mass of dense Yin Qi that carried a terrifying aura of nirvanic annihilation burst out from between his palms, turning into a dark bolt of lightning, swiftly and violently pouncing towards Su Fong. Puft, puft, puft. Wherever the black lightning went, the flying swords around Su Fong instantly lost their spirituality and fell to the ground like ordinary iron. The Yin thunder released by the black-robed young cultivator contained a strange divine power that could destroy all things. It caused the Tao palace of heaven and earth of the flying swords to collapse instantly, causing them to lose their spirituality. Boom! The Yin thunder bombarded Su Fong's body, shattering it. The black-robed cultivator smiled disdainfully. "You can't even withstand a single blow." However, at the next moment, Su Fong's shattered body turned into a pool of blood that surged in all directions. In an instant, it turned into a surging sea of blood that was tens of thousands of feet tall. The Yin thunder's power was quickly worn down and disintegrated under the yellow spring blood sea's terrifying devouring power. It couldn't cause much damage to Su Fong at all. The black-robed young cultivator was caught off guard and fell into the yellow spring blood sea. He was instantly shocked and released streaks of Yin thunder, causing the sea of blood to churn. However, he couldn't escape the yellow spring blood sea's terrifying reincarnation and devouring power. His defensive divine power shattered layer by layer, followed by his physical body being corroded. This is the yellow spring blood sea. Su Fong, you're Su Fong. Chapter 1696. Su Fong. The golden-masked cultivator is Su Fong, the wanted criminal of the heavenly mandate luminous sect. The moment the aquiline-nosed old man's voice rang out, the entire immortal city was shaken. Every cultivator felt as if a huge earthquake had occurred in their hearts, and their minds were filled with thunderous booms. Su Fong. Who didn't know this name? During the Heavenly Mandate Luminous Sect's Tao Disciple competition, Su Fong rose to prominence and became the top genius of the greater world. He was as dazzling as the sun in the sky. During the great war between immortals and demons, he turned the tides and won the immortal Tao world a chance at survival. After the war, he erected a monument for the fallen immortals and raised his arm to rally the world, causing the heavenly mandate luminous sect to lose all face. Then, he openly betrayed the heavens mandate bright firmament sect and became a wanted criminal in the entire great world. These were all well-known events. Almost no one knew what happened after that. Su Fang borrowed Shu Yunkong and Luo's strength to severely wound the sect head and kill the sect's upper echelons. Even the two demigods, the first supreme elder, the lord of the demon world, and the divine Sang Han returned in defeat. The heavenly mandate luminous sect kept this matter under wraps, so the outside world had no way of knowing. The lord of the demon world naturally wouldn't publicize Su Fang's accomplishments either. Previously, Su Fang had infiltrated the heavens mandate bright firmament sect, killed Qi Shang, devoured the sect's fortune, and almost killed deity Sang Han. The heavens mandate bright firmament sect had forcefully sealed this matter. If news of this spread, wouldn't the heavenly mandate luminous sect's wanted list become a joke? Killing Su Fang, who had the strength to severely injure a divine, in exchange for the sect's bounty? No idiot would do such a foolish thing. Though the immortal Tao world didn't know about this, it didn't affect Su Fang's reputation. Now that the hook-nosed old man had revealed Su Fang's identity, everyone was shocked to the core. The cultivators who'd been about to attack Su Fang were now trembling with fear and rejoicing at the same time. The Supreme Holy Forefather was completely dumbfounded. He was only at the high level of the Tao realm, which was considered a supreme existence in the chaotic sky macro world. But what was he to Su Fang? During the Great War of Immortals and Demons, Su Fang had even killed a peak Tao realm expert. Wouldn't killing a Tao realm expert be as easy as slaughtering a chicken? Heaven's mandate Haotsong sect had the strength to put a bounty on Su Fang, but Extreme Sacred sect didn't have the confidence to put a bounty on Su Fang's head. 6. The Supreme Holy Ancestor felt as if he had kicked a plank. No, it was more like he had kicked a mountain. The cultivators of the Supreme Sacred sect were all in a state of panic. The other party was the Su Fang. Wasn't destroying the Extreme Saint sect a piece of cake? However, there were still some people who had strange thoughts after learning about Su Fang's identity. Those who dared to target Su Fang were naturally the peak Tao realm experts and the peak Tao realm experts who'd been watching from the sky. These people were all here for the sky's sacred ground. Whether they could obtain Mother Yun's inheritance was still unknown. If they worked together to kill Su Fang, they could obtain the heavens mandate Haotsong sect's bounty. After all, not everyone had witnessed Su Fang's performance on the ancient battlefield of immortals and demons. Moreover, the heavens mandate Haotsong sect had deliberately publicized Su Fang's achievements in the Great War of Immortals and Demons. As a result, many people thought Su Fang was just a peerless genius with heaven-defying luck. It was already heaven-defying for him to possess the strength of a peak Tao realm expert. All sorts of thoughts flashed through everyone's mind in a split second. "Master, save me!" The black-robed young cultivator who was trapped in the yellow spring blood sea cried for help from the aquiline-nosed old man. His flesh-divine armor and immortal patterns were rapidly corroded by the blood water. His physical defense was shattered, and his body was about to be swallowed by the blood water. This black-robed young cultivator's talent was extraordinary, but he was just a flower in a greenhouse. He had never experienced wind and rain at all and had long been scared out of his wit. After hearing Su Fang's identity, his willpower almost collapsed, and he no longer had a trace of his previous arrogance and haughtiness. The aquiline-nosed old man cupped his fists and said, "Su Fang, my disciple was wrong first. I apologize to you here. Please let him go, okay?" Whoosh! The blood water churned and condensed into Su Fang. Su Fang said indifferently, "I specially reminded you to call him back before to prevent the inheritance from being broken. Don't you think it's a little too late for you to speak up now?" The aquiline-nosed old man's eyes burned with anger. "I've already lowered my head to you. What else do you want?" Su Fang replied coldly, "He wanted to kill me, but you didn't stop him. Instead, you intentionally allowed him to do so. Now that his life is in my hands, you're standing up and asking me to let him go with just a simple apology. Your reasoning is really domineering, but unfortunately, it won't work in front of Su Fang. Since you want to kill, then you must be prepared to be killed. Gui Gui, I'll leave him to you. Whoosh, a black bloodwater suddenly rushed out from the yellow spring blood sea and quickly wrapped around the black-robed young cultivator's body. It was Gui Gui in the yellow spring blood sea state. Gui Gui's poison could even threaten peerless existences at the peak of the high-level Dao realm. Even demigod experts didn't dare to touch Gui Gui's poison directly with their bodies. This black-robed young cultivator was only at the early stage of the Dao realm. Now that he was in the yellow spring blood sea, how could he defend against Gui Gui's poison? Sizzle, in just 4 or 5 breaths, the black-robed young cultivator screamed in despair. His body was swallowed by the black blood water and disappeared without a trace. Su Fang, you killed my disciple. I'm absolutely irreconcilable with you. The aquiline-nosed old man thundered with rage. Irreconcilable with me? Are you sure? Su Fang smiled coldly in the blood water. With a flip of his right hand, the Xianming lightning archive appeared in his palm. A terrifying lightning-type divine aura surged into the sky and swept out in all directions. Xianming lightning archive. The aquiline-nosed old man came to an abrupt halt. He looked at the Xianming lightning archive with eyes full of fear and dread. Suddenly, an aura descended from the sky. The aura carried the supreme will of the heavenly Tao. It was as if the heavenly Tao had descended. The aura quickly condensed and transformed into the phantom of the heavenly mandate bright firmament sect's first supreme elder. Su Fang. The first supreme elder looked down at Su Fang as if he was the embodiment of the heavens, overlooking all life on earth. You betrayed your sect and killed your fellow disciples. Now you're using the Yellow Spring Devil Emperor's evil methods to kill immortal cultivators. How are you any different from the evil and demonic Tao? The first supreme elder shouted coldly, full of righteousness. Then, an incomparably powerful will descended with a rumble, causing the yellow spring blood sea to ripple violently. Su Fang raised the corner of his mouth in the blood water and sneered, "If you want to condemn someone, why worry about the pretext? If First Supreme Elder wants to suppress Su Fang, why don't you just do it? Instead, you're talking nonsense. This isn't the usual style of the heavenly mandate bright firmament sect." Su Fang was most wary of Sanghan, the divine being who had been severely injured by Su Fang last time. It was one disaster after another, so it was impossible for him to make a move now. The first Supreme Elder and the Lord of the demonic world were also injured. Moreover, with Luo Xiang's help, Su Fang had the power to kill a demigod expert. They didn't dare to come here personally. The only thing the heavenly mandate bright firmament sect could rely on now was the powerful force that had led the immortal Tao, as well as the foundation that had been accumulated over countless years. Therefore, Su Fang really didn't fear the first Supreme Elder at all. Presumptuous! The first Supreme Elder snorted inexplicably. His empty eyes swept across the experts in the sky and the countless immortal cultivators in the monarch city below. "I'm currently far away in the heavenly mandate bright firmament sect and can't make it in a short time. Therefore, I invite everyone to kill Su Fang, this traitor of our sect. Even if you can't kill him, you must delay him for a while. Our sect will lead the experts and arrive soon." Then, the first Supreme Elder announced a generous reward. "I promise that anyone who attacks Su Fang will receive 10,000 Supreme-grade Vast Yang pills, 1,000 Divine Essence pills, and a Supreme-grade Peak Dao artifact. In addition, you will obtain the right to enter the Sky Sacred Ground. If you can injure Su Fang, the rewards will be multiplied tenfold. You will also obtain our sect's supreme cultivation techniques and divine powers. If you can defeat him, you will enjoy the same status as the Grand Supreme Elder of the Heavenly Mandate Bright Firmament sect. You can choose any one of our sect's God-grade cultivation techniques and divine powers. Such a generous reward instantly made many cultivators envious. Their eyes shone brightly, and they no longer looked at Su Fong with fear. Instead, they looked at him with greed. In the next moment, the first Supreme Elder threatened coldly. If you ignore my orders and don't back down, I'll make the heavenly mandate Bright Firmament sect experts visit your sects and families one by one. Su Fong, you killed my beloved disciple. If I don't kill you, as soon as the first Supreme Elder finished speaking, the hook-nosed old man leaped into the air and charged toward Su Fong. He roared with hatred, but his eyes were filled with greed. It was clear that he was not simply seeking revenge for his disciple. His main goal was the heavenly mandate Bright Firmament sect's reward. At the same time, more than 10 high-level Dao Realm experts and 2 peak high-level Dao Realm experts who were watching in the air no longer hesitated and charged toward Su Fong. Attack Su Fong. Even if you can't injure him, you can still obtain the heavenly mandate Bright Firmament sect's reward. How powerful is the heavenly mandate Bright Firmament sect? If we don't attack Su Fong now, the heavenly mandate Bright Firmament sect will hold a grudge against us. The heavenly mandate Bright Firmament sect will take revenge on our sects and cultivation clans. If we attack Su Fong, we'll be rewarded instead. It won't be difficult to make the right choice. Under the threat and reward of the first Supreme Elder, the cultivators in the Immortal City were eager to make a move. Brave men are bound to rise to the occasion of great rewards. As expected of the heavenly mandate Bright Firmament sect's Grand Supreme Elder, so many cultivators are willing to risk their lives for him with just a few words. They've completely forgotten my great kindness to the immortal Dao world and their fear of death. Su Fong raised an eyebrow and his eyes burned with fury. An indescribable resentment surged in his heart. Chapter 1697. With Su Fong's current strength and the Purple Cloud Dharma Spirit's ability to control magic treasures, he could unleash all of the Xianming Lightning Scroll's lightning-type divine power. Its power was even more terrifying than during the Great War of Immortals and Demons. Read? Book. Oh rumble! The space instantly turned into a world of lightning-type power. It was filled with a violent and destructive aura. The sky shook as if the heavenly Tao had sent down divine punishment. The powerful barrier of the supreme, holy, immortal world shattered layer by layer like paper. The desolate and chaotic power of the world seeped into the immortal world, causing the floating objects in the immortal city to become unstable. Some flew out of the immortal city into the air, while others collided with each other. The entire immortal city was in chaos. The Xianming Lightning Scroll's true ability was to attack in a large area. At this moment, more than a dozen powerhouses were suffering from the terrifying lightning-type power. The 3 peak Dao Realm experts, including the aquiline-nosed old man, were still able to defend against the terrifying power of the Xianming Lightning Scroll. As for the weaker Dao Realm experts, they were immediately severely injured by the lightning divine might, while the stronger ones had their auras and flesh armor shattered. The Xianming Lightning Scroll's power was terrifying. Second Primordial Spirit, Gui Gui, Undead Lord, go! Su Fong released the immortal demon monster, Gui Gui and Undead Lord. However, he kept the dragon bird in his body. The dragon bird was a powerful trump card against the demon race and the resurrection of powerhouses. Su Fong would not use it easily. Brother, how can you leave me out of this? Hurry up and let me out. Bai Ling's dissatisfied voice came from the cavern of time. It's good to let Sister Bai out to practice. Su Fong smiled and let Bai Ling out. Bai Ling had reached the peak of her breakthrough. Although she was not as strong as the immortal demon monster, it was easy for her to deal with the peak Dao realm powerhouses. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The immortal demon monster and undead lord attacked the talon-nosed old man and the other peak Dao realm powerhouses. Bai Ling activated the Chaos Ring. Gui Gui, in the form of the yellow spring blood sea, pounced on the peak Dao realm powerhouses. Su Fang was naturally not worried about the strength of the immortal demons, Gui Gui, and the others, so he paid too much attention to the battle in the sky. He looked down at the Supreme Sacred Sect and declared, "I will only kill the Supreme Sacred Forefather. As for the other cultivators of the Supreme Sacred Sect, I will spare your lives if you step out of the sect's defensive formation." The Supreme Holy Forefather sneered. "You won't be able to protect yourself soon, and you'll be dead the moment the elites of the Heavenly Mandate sect arrive. How dare you be so arrogant? Even if a peak high-level Tao realm powerhouse were to attack our sect's protective array with all their strength, it would take them at least 10 days to half a month to break through it. What can you do to our naive holy sect? Su Fang, you should obediently flee for your life. You actually want to persuade us to surrender. What an idiot! An idiot like this can actually save the immortal Tao world. What peerless genius! Savior of the immortal Tao? That's all bullshit." On the upper half of the mountain, waves of unbridled mockery and abuse could be heard. In this short period of time, cultivators rushed out of the immortal city in a grandiose manner. "Su Fang, so what if you saved the immortal Tao? Haven't you been betrayed by the cultivators you saved?" The projection of the Heavenly Mandate sect's Supreme Elder transmitted his nascent spirit to Su Fang. He was extremely smug and arrogant. "Look at these cultivators. They've forgotten everything in the face of great benefits. Not to mention you, they'll even abandon their parents, wives, and children without hesitation as long as there's enough benefits, let alone you. It doesn't feel good to be betrayed, does it? These are the cultivators you sacrificed your life to save. Will you kill them or not? If you kill them, they'll break your Tao heart. If you don't, you'll be killed by them. This seat wants you to keep killing, to use the lives of these ants to break your Tao heart. Once your Tao heart is broken, your cultivation will be shackled no matter how heaven-defying your talents are. You'll never be able to improve, and you might even fall into the demonic Tao, ha ha ha." Su Fang's divine light swept past the roaring cultivators, then glanced at the Empyrean sacred sect and the powerhouses in the air. He fell silent. The first Supreme Elder was right. Su Fang had risked his life to reverse the fate of the immortal Tao, but what had he gained in the end? He'd been betrayed by the Heavenly Mandate sect and given to the demons as a bargaining chip. He'd been forced to betray his sect and was now wanted by the Heavenly Mandate sect. No one had stood up for him, and no one had come to his rescue. Under the first Supreme Elder's threats and temptations, these cultivators wanted to kill him at all costs. How could Su Fang not feel a chill in his heart? "Su Fang, this is a world where either you eat me or I eat you. You defied the heavens and changed your fate to save the world of immortal Tao. You were wrong to begin with. Was I wrong?" Su Fang's deep eyes revealed hesitation. Boom, boom, boom. The cultivators flying out of the immortal city launched a fierce attack on Su Fang. The divine might of divine abilities and Tao weapons converged into a torrent of energy that battered the yellow spring sea of blood, causing waves to roil. The divine might of reincarnation and devouring was constantly shattered, and the flames of life dimmed considerably. "Powerhouses of the Heavenly Mandate sect, I've attacked Su Fang. The promised reward must not be less. I've earned such a generous reward so easily. Ha ha ha, awesome, this is just awesome. Su Fang is just SOSO. Kill him and you'll reach the heavens in a single bound." Su Fang's silence made the cultivators' attacks even more unbridled and ferocious. The first Supreme Elder's projection sneered. He wanted to use this method to shake Su Fang's Tao heart and shackle his cultivation from then on. Suddenly Su Fang raised his head and looked at the cultivators who were charging at him without hesitation. His eyes were no longer hesitant but bright and clear. Cultivators cultivate to have a clear and open mind. Heaven and earth cannot restrain them. I, Su Fang, do not need others to set rules for me. What is right and what is wrong? There is no right or wrong in this world. Right and wrong are in my heart. It's right to not go against my heart, and it's wrong to act against my heart. During the great war of immortals and demons, I sacrificed myself to save the immortal path. It was from my heart. When have I ever thought of asking others to repay me? Even if the world betrays me, so what? At this time, I don't go against my heart even if I kill people. How can I fall into the demonic path? If the world betrays me and I'm unhappy, then I'll kill to my heart's content. Since the world betrays me, what's wrong with slaughtering the world? In the next second, in the yellow spring sea of blood, a layer of fire clouds suddenly ignited with a boom and instantly turned into a monstrous fire. Turned out that Su Fang had activated the Fire Cloud Emperor physique in his bloodwater state and used the illusory fire cloud. The yellow spring sea of blood's devouring and reincarnation divine power fused with the violent and scorching divine power of fire, causing the space within 100,000 feet and the surrounding area to distort. The laws shattered and collapsed, and the wave-like attacks were incinerated layer by layer into nothingness. For the empty promises of the heavenly mandate Hao Tsang sect, you are willing to become cannon fodder. Death is not to be regretted. Today, I, Su Fang, will kill so that no one dares to have any greed for me. Su Fang's clanging voice was filled with killing intent, and it spread in all directions. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, the yellow spring sea of blood, which was burning with fire clouds, suddenly surged with a monstrous wave of fire. It was like a huge wave peak, and with a terrifying momentum that could destroy and incinerate everything, it crushed toward the immortal path cultivators. In an instant, only the blood-red clouds of fire were left in the world. The cultivators struggled in pain in the sea of fire, and their miserable screams were endless. The blood waves of the burning clouds of fire swept through the air, devouring and incinerating everything. Everywhere they went, only the distorted and shattered void was left. The cultivators who had been bewitched by the first Supreme Elder to rush to Su Fang for the astronomical reward offered by the heavenly mandate Hao Tsang's sect wished that they had a pair of wings so that they could escape faster. However, the yellow spring sea of blood released a powerful suction force that caused the space within 100,000 feet to distort. Those cultivators involuntarily flew toward the sea of blood and were instantly devoured by the fire clouds. After half an hour, the sky above the immortal city was empty. The battle in the sky was quickly decided. His second primordial spirit had the body of an immortal fiend monster that had fused with 5 demon god battle slave. Moreover, it had the divine might of a primordial spirit that could easily suppress a pinnacle Tao realm expert. It could even fight 2 pinnacle Tao realm experts with ease. It didn't even need to use the demonic saber, a divine demonic artifact. The dead lord's current strength was almost at his peak when he was alive. With the dark sky burying coffin, it was very easy for him to fight against the hook-nosed elder. However, it would be very difficult to kill him. At the height of the advanced Tao realm, it was possible to severely injure an immortal of the same level, but it was almost impossible to kill him, unless it was a demigod expert or a peerless Tao artifact or divine ability. Bai Ling and Gui Gui faced more than a dozen powerful enemies. However, Bai Ling's strange movement techniques and the terrifying power of the Chaos Ring allowed him to easily deal with the many Tao realm cultivators. Gui Gui was the most terrifying. Sometimes it turned into black blood, and sometimes it condensed into a flesh body, turning into a monster that spat out poisonous fire and smoke. When the Tao realm cultivators came into contact with its venom, their flesh would be torn open, and they would lose the ability to fight. Some were even swallowed by Gui Gui after being seriously injured. The Tao realm cultivators who had come aggressively saw how powerful Su Fang's subordinates were, and how cruel and evil they were. When they saw Su Fang turn into a sea of blood and fire and devour everything, they realized that Su Fang was 10 times, no, 100 times stronger than the legends said. First Supreme Elder, where are the Tianming Hao Tsang sect cultivators? A peak Tao realm cultivator who was fighting the dead lord couldn't help but question the first Supreme Elder's will shadow. The first Supreme Elder said majestically, "Hold on for a little longer. The Tianming Hao Tsang sect cultivators will arrive." "I've done my best. Please forgive me, First Supreme Elder." Cultivators who had reached the peak of their cultivation were all cunning old foxes. How could they not understand that they had been used as cannon fodder by the Tianming Hao Tsang sect? Chapter 1698. When the others saw this, they all ran away. 9 True 9 Sons. Chapter 1717. The old man with a hooked nose was no longer filled with hatred and greed. He no longer had any will to fight. However, just as he was about to run, his second nascent spirit activated the demonic saber and unleashed a terrifying blow that could cut through the sky, shattering the old man's defense. The old man had just had time to activate a shield Dharma treasure, but his body was cut into two by the demonic saber along with the Dharma treasure. The battle in the air was over in a short time. As for the Yellow Springs blood sea that Su Fang had transformed into, everything was wiped out in its path. Then, the sea of blood roiled and surged toward the ultimate sacred sect's half of the mountain. "Submit, we're willing to submit." "Stop, I'm willing to submit to you with the ultimate sacred sect. We'll be your slaves." Everyone, including the supreme sacred forefather, began to beg for mercy. Su Fang was unmoved. The sea of blood turned into an explosive torrent and surged toward the ultimate sacred sect's defensive formation. The supreme sacred forefather was both shocked and furious. "Su Fang, I've already submitted, and you still want to kill us all?" Boom! The Yellow Springs blood sea crashed into the ultimate sacred sect's defensive formation and shook violently. Half of the mountain suddenly sank. However, the sect's grand array remained unmoved. After all, this was a sect that could shake a major world. The sect was its foundation. Thus, its defensive grand array was naturally incomparably sturdy. Seeing this, the despairing cultivators of the ultimate sacred sect seemed to have grasped at a life-saving straw. "Do you think you can shake our sect's defensive formation? Maintain the formation with all you've got. As long as we can buy some time, the elites of the Tianming Bright sect will arrive. By then, not only will the ultimate sacred sect be safe, but Su Fang will also be suppressed by the Tianming Bright sect." The supreme sacred forefather shouted and ordered the cultivators of the ultimate sacred sect to focus all their power on the formation. "You're about to die, yet you're still hoping that the Heavens Mandate Bright Firmament sect will save you?" The Heavens Fate Bright Firmament sect's sect master was heavily injured by me and almost lost his life. The Grand Elder was also heavily injured by me and only dared to fan the flames. Even the fate of the Heavens Fate Bright Firmament sect has been devoured by me. It's already at the end of its days and will be destroyed sooner or later. A mere formation can't stop my Su Fang. Not even the Heavenly Mandate Hao Tsang sect can save you. As I said before, from today onwards, there will be no more everlasting sacred sect in the outside world. A voice full of murderous intent came from the blood, as if the heavenly Tao was announcing the death of the supreme sacred sect. Whoosh! The fire clouds in the Yellow Springs blood sea suddenly burned into white flames. It turned out that Su Fang had once again activated the 9 Suns' immortal flames. The Yellow Springs blood sea seeped into the formation through the gaps between the formation's immortal marks, and then the 9 Suns' immortal flames burned from the inside out. The mountain-protecting grand array that the Supreme Saint sect considered as a life-saving straw was said to be a peerless existence at the peak of the high-level Tao realm. It was a powerful array formation that couldn't be broken even after half a month. However, under the terrifying power of the Yellow Spring blood sea and the 9 Suns' celestial fire, it shattered layer by layer and finally collapsed. Whoosh! The blood water poured into the supreme sacred sect like a flood from a dam and then spread out like a flood. The world turned into a sea of blood, swallowing everything in its path. Tens of thousands of supreme sacred sect cultivators cried for help in the blood water and were instantly corroded into blood water. Su Fong, I'll fight you to the death. An old man jumped out from the depths of the mountain and roared in despair. He burned his life force, true chi, and nascent spirit. At the same time, he activated the world origin of the supreme sacred immortal world and released an aura comparable to a peak Tao realm expert. He charged at Su Fong in the blood-water state. Do you think you're qualified to fight me to the death? Su Fong's body condensed in the blood water, holding a large bow in his hand. The bow was more than 5 feet long and covered in ancient immortal runes. The blood-red bowstring had the shadow of a golden dragon coiling around it. Roar! As the bowstring was drawn, a murderous aura accompanied by a dragon's roar filled the sky. Screech! The shadow of a dragon shot out from the bowstring and tore through the void, tearing apart the Supreme Sacred Ancestor's aura. Just as the Supreme Sacred Ancestor was about to use his movement technique to dodge the immortal Slaughtering Bow's attack, a devouring force erupted from the Yellow Spring's blood sea and caused him to stagger. The dragon arrow from the immortal Slaughtering Bow whistled through the air and took away his right arm. In the next moment, the blood water burning with the 9 suns' immortal flames surged out and covered the Supreme Sacred Ancestor. Sizzle! Whoosh! Whoosh! No matter how the Supreme Sacred Ancestor struggled, he couldn't break free from the shackles of the blood sea. He was burned, incinerated, corroded, and devoured layer by layer. In the end, he stopped screaming and struggling and turned into a corpse that burned in the blood flames. This scene. The faces of the cultivators in the immortal city turned pale. Their bodies trembled, and their backs were drenched in sweat. Some of the more timid ones were so scared that they wet their pants. It wasn't like there weren't any who were scared silly. When the blood sea disappeared, the world fell into a dead silence. Half of the mountain where the Supreme Sacred Sect used to be was barren, without a single blade of grass. The abundant spirit energy was also gone. It was a complete ruin with not a single person to be seen. The Supreme Sacred Sect was completely erased from existence. Not a single blade of grass was left behind. Su Fong, who had recovered his physical form, leaped into the air. His not-so-tall figure was deeply imprinted in the hearts of every cultivator, becoming a nightmare that would never be erased. After a frenzied devouring, not only did Su Fong completely recover the life force he used to activate the Xianming Lightning Scroll, his life force became even more boundless. Bai Shan Ancient Devil is right. Whether it's a small world or a large world, in the end people kill people and people eat people. It's either I kill you or you kill me. There's no difference between humans and demons in essence. The Yellow Spring Great Emperor was originally a righteous cultivator, but he was called the Devil Emperor by others. That's because he wanted revenge, to protect his friends, and to avoid being oppressed and shackled. That's why he decided to conquer the world and kill his way out of it. The so-called Tao heart is actually ruthlessness. Do as you please and kill without hesitation. Those who stand in my way will die. Those who disturb my Tao heart will die. At this moment, Su Fong had a deep understanding of the Yellow Spring Emperor's experience. After this slaughter, his heart felt much more at ease. He had a strong feeling that he could break through to the high levels of the Tao realm at any time. Treasure location. This kid has talent, ambition, and the courage to kill. He's already become a thorn in the side of the Heavenly Mandate Haotsong sect. The will of the Heavenly Mandate Haotsong sect's first Supreme Elder watched the entire process coldly, but his heart was shaken. Su Fong, you've killed cultivators of the immortal Tao with evil methods. You've fallen to the demonic Tao and will become the public enemy of the entire immortal Tao world. That's your true goal, isn't it? Su Fong said coldly. As long as I have a clear conscience, so what if I'm evil or demonic? You can't shake my Tao heart at all. On the contrary, you've strengthened it and given me limitless potential in the future. Su Fong's lips curled into a disdainful sneer. As the ruler of the heavenly mandate Haotsong sect and the leader of the immortal Tao, you've always compromised to the demons and used all sorts of methods to bully and deceive cultivators of the immortal Tao. With such a Tao heart, your life's achievements will end here. You won't be able to take that final step. The first Supreme Elder's projection wavered. Su Fang's words were as sharp as knives, causing his Tao heart to become slightly unstable. I'll let you be arrogant for now. You'll be suppressed sooner or later. The first Supreme Elder snorted and his will projection blurred. You've caused so many cultivators to lose their lives. You want to leave without leaving anything behind? Su Fang suddenly revealed an eerie murderous intent. The first Supreme Elder's projection that was about to dissipate chuckled. What, do you want to keep this seat here? This seat has only descended with a strand of divine sense. What can you do if you destroy it? Destroying just a strand of your divine sense would be letting you off too easily. Su Fang looked at the Grand Elder's projection with ethereal divine light shooting out of his eyes. The Tao runes of fate were activated by Su Fang at this moment. The mysterious Tao runes of fate flickered and burned with flames, turning into silent lightning of fate. Lightning of fate. The first Supreme Elder's divine sense felt a terrifying sense of impending doom. It was as if he was facing heavenly punishment. Not only was this projection of divine sense about to be completely destroyed, everything in his fate was about to be completely destroyed. What kind of ability is this? The first Supreme Elder was aghast and was immediately killed by an ethereal power of fate. Deep in the celestial land of destiny. Su Fang, you may have a supreme ability, but so what? This seat is a supreme existence in the great world. No matter how powerful your ability is, you're still like an ant. How can you shake this seat? The first Supreme Elder's true body sneered embarrassedly. Suddenly, the first Supreme Elder's smile froze on his face, and a look of shock and horror appeared on his face. Boom! The lightning of fate could wipe out everything related to fate. Although Su Fang's divine sense was targeted at the first Supreme Elder's divine sense, his true body couldn't escape the suppression of the power of fate. The first Supreme Elder felt a huge hand pressing down on him, wanting to strip him of everything. He couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. As expected of a demigod expert, he actually managed to resist the lightning of fate. However, his face couldn't help but rapidly age, and his aura withered to the limit. What a terrifying ability! The first Supreme Elder only let out a long sigh of relief when he felt the terrifying power that could wipe out everything disappear from his body. His eyes were filled with lingering fear. It was truly too terrifying. That ethereal and ethereal divine might actually wanted to completely erase all traces of his existence. Was there anything more terrifying than this? I can't count on the Azura gods, and the same goes for the demons. Looks like I can only use my final trump card. Chapter 1699. Su Fang had also paid a heavy price to severely injure the first Supreme Elder with the Thunder of Destiny. Yen female sign 8 yen female sign 8 yen female sign read yen female sign books, 230 yen directly activating the Thunder of Destiny to suppress an enemy's fate consumed a great deal of life force to begin with, not to mention that the target was a supreme demigod. Su Fang's life force was wantonly consumed and rapidly drained away. His hair quickly turned ashen, and his face changed to that of an old man in his 50s or 60s. Fortunately, Su Fang had devoured the paramount sacred sect before this and his life force was at its peak. Otherwise, the consumption would have exceeded the limits of what he could bear. Still, it was worth it to pay such a price. The first Supreme Elder wouldn't be able to pose much of a threat to Su Fang after suffering such a great loss, unless he didn't mind dying. Su Fang was incomparably delighted with this slaughter. The great breakthrough in his Tao heart brought with it an increase in his cultivation realm. Divine light swept across the immortal city below. Su Fang smiled sheepishly and waved a hand to collect the fiend god monster, Bai Ling, the undead lord, and Gue into his body, then calmly left. The scale of this battle was far smaller than the great war of immortals and demons, but the impact it caused was no less than that. Su Fang's decisive and ruthless slaughter had broken free from the suppression of the heavenly mandate Hao Tsang sect. His domineering rise was unstoppable. In the world of immortals, their impression of Su Fang had undergone a complete change. In the eyes of immortal Tao cultivators, Su Fang was no longer a peerless genius, nor was he the spiritual leader of the immortal Tao. Nor was he a weakling who could be bullied by the heavenly mandate Hao Tsang sect. He was a rising peerless figure who could look down on demigod. At this moment, no one could overshadow his brilliance. Regarding Su Fang's evaluation, there were also mixed. Some said that Su Fang was a heavenly hero who'd saved the immortal Tao, while others called him a demon of the evil Tao. However, there was one thing in common. It was fear towards Su Fang from the bottom of his heart. Even a supreme existence at the peak of the Tao realm would feel a chill from the bottom of his heart when Su Fang's name was mentioned. After this battle, the news of Su Fang devouring the heavenly mandate Hao Tsang sect's fortune and severely injuring their first supreme elder spread. The sect's position as the #1 faction in the immortal Tao world was thoroughly shaken. However, the heavenly mandate Hao Tsang sect had dominated the great world for many years. In the short term, no faction could replace the heavenly mandate Hao Tsang sect's position. Heaven's mandate Hao Tsang sect's bounty on Su Fang immediately became a joke. This was like a tiger placing a bounty among a group of rabbits to capture another tiger. No matter how generous the bounty was, which rabbit would dare to chase after the tiger? Not long after the battle, the wanted posters in the immortal cities were taken away. However, everyone knew that the heavenly mandate Hao Tsang sect would not take this lying down. They still had a chance of killing Su Fang. If they allowed Su Fang to continue growing, the heavenly mandate Hao Tsang sect would be annihilated. How could they sit still and wait for death? As for what method the heavenly mandate Hao Tsang sect would use to deal with Su Fang, the immortal Tao world had no way of knowing. After all, the heavenly mandate Hao Tsang sect had led the immortal Tao world for countless years and had a deep foundation that outsiders did not know about. The shock brought about by this matter quickly subsided. The attention of the 8 factions in the immortal Tao world was all focused on the cloud heaven sacred ground that had appeared not long ago. The heavenly mandate Hao Tsang sect did not change its usual domineering and forceful attitude. It directly sent a large number of experts to seal the cloud heaven sacred ground from the outside. No faction or cultivator could approach the cloud heaven sacred ground. Of course, it was impossible for the heavenly mandate Hao Tsang sect to swallow the cloud heaven sacred ground alone. After a round of bargaining, the 8 factions finally reached an agreement. The heavenly mandate Hao Tsang sect would take the lead and unite the various factions to open a passage that led directly to the depths of the cloud heaven sacred ground. Then, the cloud heaven sacred ground would be divided according to the amount of effort. Whoosh! A green-robed man broke through the air and appeared in the chaotic void outside the chaotic sky great world. It was the green-feathered demon emperor who had disguised himself as a green-robed cultivator. Su Fang, that brat, actually caused such a big commotion this time. As expected of the genius that I watched grow up in the small world. Even a colossus like the heavenly mandate Hao Tsang sect was shaken by him. However, he is still alone in the end. If he can unite the demon world, it will be a great thing for him and the demon world. I wonder where that brat is hiding. It won't be easy to find him. The green-feathered demon emperor muttered to himself and then merged back into the void and disappeared without a trace. The shackles of the world and space could not cause any hindrance to him. Time flew by. 100 years passed in the blink of an eye. The heavenly mandate Hao Tsang sect and the 8 factions joined forces and spent 100 years to open a passage through the heavy fog and unveil the mystery of the cloud heaven sacred ground. On the contrary, some experts were trapped in the fog and never came out again, including some high-level Dao realm expert. However, it was not without gains. Some people accidentally found a royal-grade Dao artifact in the fog outside the cloud heaven's sacred ground. Some people obtained the top cultivation technique manuals of the Great World. As for other spiritual items and ancient elixirs, there were also many. Such amazing treasures made the heavenly mandate Haotsong sect and the experts from the 8 immortal realms scramble for the cloud heaven's sacred ground even more. On this day, an aura rushed out of nowhere, but it was definitely not in the cloud heaven's sacred ground. It was in the chaotic spacetime far away from the cloud heaven's sacred ground. This aura shot straight into the sky. In an instant, heaven and earth shook, and the heavenly Tao seemed to stop operating at this moment. People's thoughts and consciousness stopped. Time, space, energy, and laws all had an instant of stagnation. An extremely unfamiliar heavenly Tao aura enveloped heaven and earth. It was as if another heavenly Tao had appeared in the great world's heavenly Tao at this moment. This heavenly Tao was not as vast and profound as the great world's heavenly Tao, but it was an existence that was on par with the great world's heavenly Tao. In the sky, the nebula churned and condensed into a boundless vortex that was like the eye of the heavenly Tao. Moreover, at this moment, as the starlight flickered in this eye, there was a trace of emotion in it, just like a human's eyes. It was surprise, shock, and disbelief. The divine sun and evil suns in the sky also dimmed at this moment. An evil and extremely powerful divine thought instantly swept across every corner of the great world. He can actually attract the attention of the heavenly Tao, causing the heavenly eye to appear. Moreover, he's also deceived by the heavenly Tao. Even I can't sense his existence. When did such a peerless figure appear in the great world? Looks like I need to send someone to the great world. The evil and ethereal voice reverberated in the great world and gradually faded away. The great world's cultivators could not see or hear the scene in the sky and the evil voice. In front of the heavenly Tao, the great world's cultivators were like ants. Whether it was the heavenly eye or the evil voice, they had completely exceeded the limits of what they could come into contact with. However, the abnormal movement of the heavenly Tao still brought some changes to the great world. Some ruins and sacred grounds that were sealed by powerful seals or shackles of the world were affected by the omen. The seals and shackles loosened, revealing a trace of something. Look, the cloud heaven's sacred ground has appeared. Outside the cloud heaven's sacred ground, someone exclaimed, attracting everyone's attention to the cloud heaven's sacred ground. A gap suddenly appeared in the fog that shrouded the cloud heaven's sacred ground, and one could roughly see the situation inside. The cloud heaven's sacred ground was not large and only had a radius of 10,000 miles. Ethereal clouds floated above the material continent, and the ground was covered with mountains, rivers, and forests. In the central area of the material continent, there was a palace surrounded by clouds. Only a corner of the palace was exposed, but a lofty and majestic aura was completely revealed. A corner of the mysterious veil of the cloud heaven's sacred ground was finally unveiled, but it only lasted for a dozen breaths before it was covered by a thick fog again. That palace must be the place where Mother Yun lives and cultivates. All of Mother Yun's inheritance and treasures are in the palace. The cultivators were shocked by the sudden appearance of the cloud heaven's sacred ground and immediately fell into a frenzy. The powerhouses of the heavenly mandate, Haotsong sect, and the other forces also desperately sent more people to speed up the progress of opening the passageway. At the same time, in the chaotic void outside the chaotic sky great world, Su Fang sat cross-legged on the ground above a small ruin. He had created layers of array formations around Su Fang. He had also inserted more than 10 ancient spirit meridians into the ruins, causing the spirit qi in the array formations to become extremely abundant. The immortal fiend monsters, undead lords, Gui Gui, Dragon Bird, Bai Ling, Zhu Huang, and other big goblin, as well as more than 300,000 elite subordinates formed layers of powerful defenses outside the array formations. All of them looked as if they were facing a great enemy. At this moment, shocking tribulation fire burned on Su Fang's body. At the same time, he also used the illusory fire cloud and the 9-sun celestial fire, completely turning him into a man of fire. Even through the layers of array formations, his subordinates outside could feel the terrifying power of the flames and had to use their divine abilities to defend themselves. Half-floating life. It turned out that Su Fang's Tao heart had broken through after destroying the ultimate sacred sect. After 100 years of consolidation, which should have been 1,000 years in the time cave abode, he had finally reached the advanced stage of the Tao realm. It took longer than any other time to break through from the intermediate stage of the Tao realm to the advanced stage. However, compared to other Tao realm cultivators who needed millions or even tens of millions of years to break through to the next stage, Su Fang's speed of improvement was heaven-defying. This breakthrough attracted the attention of the heavenly eye and even the supreme evil god in the divine world. Even Su Fang himself didn't notice. At this moment, he was still immersed in the breakthrough. With the help of the power of advancement, Emperor Tianbao's great Tao of weapon refinement, tribulation fire, illusory fire cloud, and 9-sun celestial fire, he smelted his body like a Tao artifact. His yin-yang Tao wheel was the Tao artifact's Tao palace of heaven and earth. In this way, not only was Su Fang's physical body transforming, but the various true forms based on the perfect physical body and the Tao palace of heaven and earth, also known as the Godhead, were also transforming.